What's up, everybody? Lyle, no hippie trucking and transportation. Just chilling. Need to throw some air on in here right quick. Diabetic trucker, what's up? Got Jesse in the house. What's going on? K-Mac, what's up? Just sitting up here at the Springfield, Missouri terminal. Trying to prepare my mind for all the fuckery I'm about to get into. Leah, what's up? Calhoun, Georgia. Man, better you than me. I'm pretty sure I'll get my taste of Georgia coming up here pretty soon. Just seeing if anybody else gets in here. All right. So I got up here on Friday, need to turn my taxes in. By the time I got everything moved over from my personal car to my truck, wasn't going to happen. So I got to hang out here till tomorrow, go turn in my taxes, and then I'm going to get up out of here. Leah, all right, just had to fight an old Spanish man for the last parking spot. Oh, you must be up there at that Love's. If you went down the way, if you went back about 5 exits back, there's always spots at that both the Flying J and the Love's. And if you went towards Atlanta, they got a Quick Trip over there that usually has some spots open in it this time of day. Yep, so I got up here on Friday, Saturday, ran into old school Junior Honduras up here. He was back there in that truck transfer station doing some stuff. Stopped by, said what's up to him real quick. He was putting in that work, so I didn't want to take up too much time. Moving in and out of these damn trucks, boy, that is a lot of work. So that was pretty quick. And then we spoke a little bit yesterday on the phone about a few things going on, and that was about it. We need to get Junior back making some videos. That's what we need to do. We need to get some old school people back up in here. But we are packed up here at the terminal, boy. I don't know what's going on. Why there's so many people up here, but it is packed. Not sure how long I'm going to be out on this run. This lease is going to be up in December, so I figure I'm going to have 2 runs. I'm going to have 2 runs I got to go on before December. I just don't know how I'm going to work it as far as how long I'm going to stay out, how long I'm going to stay home, all that kind of stuff. Yep. Junior is the man, and it appears that they're finally going to start implementing some of the stuff that he was trying to talk about on the driver advisory board years ago about having a standard on training as far as a checklist, stuff like that. So it's good that they're finally getting around to that. All right, so that's that on that. I had a new person ask me if I could come up with some tips. Well, he's not a new person, he's new at Prime. Kind of some tips on surviving Prime. So that's not going to be a live, that's going to be a regular video. Oh my God, Roderick, I would like to see Trucker Scooby-Doo. That's another one that needs to come back. As a matter of fact, you want to talk about learning something from somebody, Scooby-Doo, he's the one. Like, I've done videos about stuff that I keep on my truck in the winter. A lot of that shit that I put in my video, I got from him in terms of having all that alcohol on board. I mean, I know that's just one of the things, but him definitely, you know, got the right temperament and everything like that. Yeah, we need Trucker Scooby-Doo back too. Absolutely. And just from a training, you know, perspective. I mean, I always figured, you know, when I was going to be training, I kind of had an idea of what I was going to be as far as a trainer goes, but just listening to him on some of the things that he was talking about just reinforced to me that some of the stuff that I was doing was kind of on point. And a lot of that was, you know, before you pick up a trainee, you don't just get a trainee and hop on the truck. You know, you got to stop, break a little bit of bread, you know what I'm saying? Get to know each other, all that kind of stuff. Make sure they're not fighting with no girlfriend or wife at home or anything that's going to be distracting, people like that. And then get out. Man, I just thought about him the other day too. Well, not the other day. It seems like the other day, but I was out delivering in Memphis. And I was like, man, he kind of went through my mind because I know that's where he lives. So, yeah, shit. Any other old school people that need to come back? Yeah. So we know Leah's in Calhoun, Georgia. Where's everybody else at? I do have some stuff I want to talk about. I want to wait and see if some people come in that actually know what I'm talking about before I get into that. Lil Dude from the 63rd. My title came in the mail. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Shoot. Hopefully transferring that title is going to be easy. I know certain states are better than others, stuff like that, but it's all downhill from there, man. Myth Leather Company, what's up? Deerfield Beach, Florida. Yeah, Junior's on that plant load going to Lowe's and Home Depot and all that. I know somebody that loves that run. I've never done it. Maybe I'm just scarred up from my time when I was in training and we had that flower load, and I was like, I am never doing this shit again. That is non-negotiable. Now, those were flowers, not plants. And those were back when we used to actually have to unload those flower trailers. And that wasn't the biggest part about it. It was when you're making all them stops and everything, you really don't have time to sleep. And once we got done with our last load, we weren't going to be picking up. We had a load that was planned on us. It wasn't going to pick up till like noon the next day. So I knew I was going to have some time to sleep. And my fleet manager had us do a repower. And I told my trainer, do not take this shit. And he ended up taking it. I said, okay. Because I'd already done all the training I needed to do. And I was like, you know what? If you take another flour load, I'm hopping off of here. Mid Leather Company back in the office. That's what I'm talking about. Man, if I was younger, I'm just telling you, I would probably be looking to get out of the truck as well. J.D. Sean with the congratulations to Lil Dude from the 63rd. Yeah, maybe if I was younger, it'd be a different story. But I mean, now I can't even think about looking far ahead. But maybe if I was younger, I could look at I don't know how people do like 20 years in the truck or whatever. Like I can't see it. Peg Leg, what's up? Southern Colorado, where at in Southern Colorado? I am not a fan of I-25 in Southern Colorado, down there, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, all that stuff. Not a fan. And then you got that one scale down there. I think 50% of the truckers miss that scale because it's on the opposite side of the highway. But yeah, I don't know if anybody saw this last meeting. It really wasn't anything much they said in that meeting, although we got drivers out there concerned about shit that doesn't affect them. That is one thing I do not get. Is all these drivers trying to throw other drivers under the bus. I'm pretty much too busy worried about myself to be worried about what another motherfucker's doing. All right, I'm in Colorado City, about half hour south of Pueblo. Yeah, I know where you're at. I'm going to tell you what, don't hop on that 550 out there in Colorado. Matter of fact, I had a trainer call me. He said one of his students got a load, and if he followed the route recommendation, it was going to take him over the $1 Million Highway or whatever that is in Colorado. No guardrails, no nothing. I mean, there's crazy people out there that do that shit in the winter. And I was like, man, I wouldn't even go there in the summer. I mean, I remember going down that highway as a kid scared, and I wasn't even driving. Yeah, I've never been on it. There's 2 highways down south in Colorado that I just would not play with at all. Now 550 in New Mexico, that is the cheat code. Forgot who told me that. Damn, was that Leah? Somebody gave me the cheat code about taking, how some people will be on 40 and then they go all the way down to Gallup, New Mexico, and then kind of work their way up through Moab and all that shit. Somebody put me up on the cheat code where you get on 25, go north from Albuquerque, and then you get on 550 there. That cuts off that corner. And then once you drive west far enough, that's where you kind of pick up the normal route. But Wolf Creek Pass, absolutely not. There's just no reason to do that. And you will see like trucks just go off that shit. Nope. And definitely not in winter. There's no way. All right, Myth Leather Company had to stop because of avalanche of snow over the road. Yep. In Colorado, I would not be taking no off-brand highways. Period. Maybe if you want to cut that corner off, or you're bored and it's summertime. You know, what's that highway in Colorado that kind of cuts off that corner between Cheyenne and like Fort Collins? I forget what highway that is. But I've done that a few times. One time out of boredom. I don't remember why I did it another time, but I'll take that one. But man, I forgot who told me that, because they told me to put in Cuba, New Mexico is just like a via point. So my GP 287, yeah, that's it. Put in Cuba, New Mexico is like my via point. Once I got there, my GPS would already start recalculating where I'm going. Did Wolf Creek Pass 55 times? Absolutely not. That's a hero right there. Better him than me. The more people that take it, the less of a chance I gotta have to take. Well, I ain't gonna take it, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, 287. That's a decent little. I don't know if it saves that much time. It's definitely less miles, but yeah. Meditation music. What is my pre-plan? I don't have one yet. I don't even know if my fleet manager knows I'm here yet. I just I got here on Friday. I need to stop in and talk to the tax people on Monday, and then I'll get with driver lineup, and chances are I'm just gonna see what they got. I'm not gonna ask them to put me on no list or nothing like that. And then later on that night, like 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll go in there and see what they have. I've never had a problem getting off the yard when I walk in there in the middle of the night to see what they got. So I don't have a plan yet. You're probably thinking of US. Yep, 287 goes from Fort Collins, Laramie, Wyoming. Yep, I think it's the same exit, or the exit, one exit east of like that Petro and all that down there. When you take 550, get off in Rio Franco, park behind Big R store, walk across the street to Santa Ana Casino, burgers, fries, totally awesome. Man, I can't even remember the last time I've been down there. But I ain't getting on 5. Or if you're talking about 550 New Mexico, yeah, maybe that. Yeah, okay, I know you're talking about New Mexico. Wolf Creek Pass is better than any roller coaster ride. I don't even know how they. No guardrails. Like, well, I don't know. 550 might have guard. One of them highways ain't got no guardrails. I don't need to see either one of them personally, so it's one of the two. I'm not getting on either. All right, Myth Leather Company should have dipped off at Telluride, but decided to raw dog it. Yep, nope. I've done Bertha Pass on US 40 off I-70 in the winter. Park, Colorado twice. Nope. Nope. Now, anybody, you can call me whatever you want on that one. I'm from Colorado. I see the news out there. I grew up listening to, crazy shit happening on that stuff. I don't want no part of it. All right, diabetic trucker. As soon as my body starts working again, I'll be back. Yeah, get better, man. Come back out. Take some of these loads off me. Any of you guys that have been watching my channel, some of you guys are debating on whether to come to Prime or not come to Prime. I know there's a couple of you guys out there, man. the loads are plentiful out here. I'm only speaking about the reefer side. I think that the flatbed, there might be some more options or whatever. I'm not going to get into that since that doesn't affect me, but definitely plenty of loads out here right now. At first, lady was all about building roads without guardrails and stuff to preserve the natural landscape. I don't remember which one. None of that stuff. All right, Trucker Richie Rich. So am I still in the hole since taking time off? I am like $1,500 in the hole with $22,000 in my emergency fund plus the $65,000 that's sitting in my account from the insurance payoff. So 3 weeks off, I'm imagining I'm gonna be in the hole a little bit, or coming up. Well, I think this is right at 3 weeks. So this is the thing. I wasn't speaking about Richie Rich specifically, but I was speaking about some of them raggedy ass Tyson, some of them Tyson plants, man. First of all, and I am serious about this. First of all, if I didn't have to go to any meat plants at all, you could take 10% off everything I make. It's just the fee for not going there. I hate going to meat plants. Now, there are maybe a couple Tyson places I've been to that aren't bad, but those two in Mississippi, I just couldn't do it all the time. But when it comes to the lease and, I think Tyson's, from what you're saying and from what I've heard, Tyson's a good place to work. I just don't think I could do it with the demands that I have on my time off. Because, or, company driver to any degree. Somebody could tell, my man Romaine's always throwing out all this money he's making and all this kind of stuff. Man, listen, once you're telling me about taking less than a week off after being out in the truck for like 4 weeks straight, and that's like the minimum. I mean, I can't even take a good shit in 7 days. So I'm gonna need more than that. And as soon as you start doing that, there's I don't know any companies that are going to allow you to take the time off that I need. And sure, it's going to cost me a little bit of money, all that kind of stuff, but I'm really not in the building money phase in my life at this point. I'm kind of in the kind of coasting stage, just setting things up, things like that. So I don't necessarily need to be killing it 100% of the time. Now, when I'm out here driving, I'm killing it. You know what I mean? So I kill it and then I take the time off. Now, I don't think I really wanted to take. I don't remember why I took 3 weeks off this time. I was going into it planning on, I know. I need to do something with my wife. So I stayed home. I forgot when my wife's appointment was. I ended up staying home for like an extra 5 days past when I was gonna leave. So I wasn't planning on taking almost 3 weeks off. All right. Leah, there's no excuse for them not to pave their lots. If anybody knows the ones those Tyson plants that are in Mississippi, those have got to be like some of the worst. But then there's a couple that I kind of like, but I don't think they're like I think they're more like the finished product places, not necessarily the, where they're bringing in all the chickens and all this kind of shit. But yeah, and I agree about not having to go to any meat plants. I know one of my boys, he worked at Prime. He actually became a vegetarian after going to these meat plants. And serious about it too. I didn't think that shit was real. I thought it was like he'd seen enough, and he was gonna be done with it, or he's gonna be a vegetarian for a while or something. No, he straight up became a vegetarian. Checking in from Manuka, close to our yard. Man, I'm gonna tell you what, Sean. Manuka, whenever I'm going through down 80 in that Manuka area. First of all, if I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna stay at that Love's down there and try to get me some naf. If not, I'm gonna stop at the TA down the road, or whatever. But I'll drop my trailer real quick at Manuka, run down to that Jewel Osco grocery store, get up some of my supplies, and head back out. All right, Leah knows the one in Mississippi. I'm trying to think of what other ones. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. That's True Love. What are you talking about, Knight Rider? Cummins, Georgia is probably my least favorite. Man, I've been lucky to not have had to go to a lot of meat plants in a while. And I mean true meat plants. Like I've gone to like Smithfield, Tar Heel or whatever, and I wasn't dealing with that other backside of it. It was like drop your load here, pick up your other load there. So I really wasn't dealing with that. I dealt with is that Tyson? Yeah, that's Tyson out there by Manuka. That's a good place. But again, I don't think that's a process. I think that's a finishing place over there. Ottawa, whatever it is in Illinois. But I've been lucky. Shit, I haven't really gone to any like meat plants in a while. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I went to like one real meat plant the entire last run I was on. And I was out 8 weeks on that last run. All right, let's see. Gene Scott, Tyson plants in Arkansas suck. I'm not even, you know what? They got that one that's in Rogers, Arkansas or something like that. That one's not, I think that's like one of their main places or something like that. That one's not bad. It's a little, yeah, that one's not bad. But them ones deep in them backwoods and shit, yeah, those are bad. Meditation music, you don't get in trouble for dropping your trailer for food and shopping? No, because I dropped it at the terminal, at our Manuka terminal. So it was fully gated, all that kind of stuff. So, all right, John, you took 3 weeks home time, only been out for 3 days, and you're 1,500 in the hole? Yeah, fucking right. It is what it is. And that kind of had to do with how my loads dropped. Tyson plant in Pottsville, Pennsylvania is the best I've seen. I don't think I've been to that one. Cactus, Texas, I think that's JBS. Somebody told me that either that place or what's other places down there? Yeah, Cactus, Texas, and then there's another one. One of those places have like done a lot of paving or did things a little bit better out there. Even if you turn in a load to break even on the first week, 2 weeks whole time with 3K in the hole, you've only been out for 3 days. All right. Maybe I'm off. We'll see. I don't know if that's going to blow that up enough there or not. 531. All right. Oh, the ones in Delaware. Those are horrible. All right. You're such a bullshitter. Nobody can take 3 weeks off and only be 1,500 in the hole after being on the road for 3 days. Such bullshit. Put fucking checks on the glass. What? You know what? I've done that shit before. And you know what putting stuff on the glass has done? I've either had people say that I don't make enough money, or what is it? I'm lying. Or no, I'm lying about the money I make, or I'm not making enough money. So me putting it on the glass, I'm telling you, look at all the other people on YouTube and what they're doing, and the ones that are putting it on the glass. And I'd say that fall right in with what I'm doing. Have you ever heard anybody having to buy the load if the reefer acts up? No. Well, okay, hold on a second. There was a time that I had a driver that there was some miscommunication between night dispatch and him about what to do with this load. It was going to McDonough, Georgia. Everything on that said drop it at the drop yard or something like that. So he was asking this night dispatcher to get clarification on it. And the night dispatcher, I guess, gave him the wrong information. He dropped it at the McDonough drop yard. And then somebody, for some reason, turned off the trailer. And that was a big fucking deal. There was a question as to who was going to have to eat that load. And they were talking about the load. My driver had to go in there. Okay, so my driver, my fleet manager, the night dispatch person, my fleet manager's manager, and my fleet manager's manager's manager all had to have this meeting and shit. And because everything done was through Qualcomm and everything, we got out of it. And then I think that cost the night fleet manager his job. I hate high trailers at meat plants. Absolutely. Maybe you were off because 3 weeks of home time and you've only been back working for 3 days and you're only in the whole 1,500. If that's all that you have to bitch about, find something else to complain about. I mean, call me broke, call me whatever you want to do, but I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, whether I'm 1,500 in the hole, 3,000 in the hole, whatever. Regardless of how far I'm in the hole, there's still $20,000 sitting in that emergency fund to dig me out, plus a bunch of other fucking money. This all trucking money. It's not even including my money. But how about we do this? How about we go on live together and we can go show off each other's assets to each other and then see who's the big dog on that. If you want to be out here talking shit like this. What's the Tyson plant in Holcomb, Kansas? If it's the one I'm thinking of, I think that one's like an actual meat plant where they're processing chicken. I don't know. Did you just show off your e-fund? What does that have to do with taking 3 weeks off? All right. Here's what we could do with this. We just... done with this shit. All right, Six Simper, what's up? Delaware sucks because there's nothing around, 0 truck stops. There's a few truck stops out there, but I just hate going down to Delaware. John, you don't know what you're talking about? Well, I'm done with him. I wanted to comment on your last live where you were talking about time off and suggested maybe looking at into KLLM. They give you 2 days off PTO for every week off. Just thought if Prime makes, that's a whole lot better than 4 days off a month, or for every 4 weeks worked, or however they do it. 4424 Leah, there's lots of truck stops in Delaware. You have to look around. They got them truck stops, and they got them little ass like bus stops, rest area type places. I just don't like going down there. Man, with those high trailers, who needs Planet Fitness? You ain't lying. And there's people that steadily think that truck drivers are dropping trailers that high. When was the last time, I mean, even the most fit truck driver, when was the last time you saw a truck driver go out of his way to do more fucking work? Like, not only am I going to drop the trailer, I'm going to spend extra time dropping it 4 inches high. That shit ain't happening. Those are the meat plants doing that. And then they're like this far apart. Speaking of which, if they're talking about everybody taking pictures of trailers and all that kind of stuff, how are you going to take pictures of trailers when the trailers are so close to each other, even if they're not? So now what are we going to do? Pull into the aisle and block all this traffic and stuff so we can take these pictures? Anyway, I'm done. I'm not even going to get into that. Man, there ain't no problem asking no questions. All right, Leah says she doesn't want to work for CPM again. Slime Pack. Hey, what's up, Slime Pack? Did you get another truck, or what were you doing up here in Springfield? Glad you got rid of that idiot. Just wanted to argue, man. Absolutely. All right, yard dog mistreating our trailers. Yep, that could be true. Let me pull some of this K tape off of here. Yeah, you probably beat me on a pink slip. Because, yeah, I'm still with Prime, just moseying along. Slime Pack, I don't know why. Hey, send me a text or something. I don't know why you were up here. I thought your lease was up or something. My trainee got fired for taking a shit. Taking a shit at the shop. What do you mean? Shoulder. What? Does having an 11C protect you from being sued by a four-wheeler if anything goes wrong? Man, I'm not sure. As far as some of that legal stuff goes, I am uninformed and I've been lazy. I was supposed to have been transferring shit into a trust a long time ago and haven't done that. That's probably the best way. Oh, 741-222 has left the Prime fleet. All right. I don't know what's going on with Myra 6 Semper Tyrannus. Sean's not with Prime. Listening for tips on a lot of channels. Man, there's nobody. I was expecting some people to come in here that watched a video yesterday I wanted to talk about a little bit, but I watched a video yesterday and they needed to put a trigger warning up. That's some new age shit right there. People my age don't use that term, trigger warning, but I needed one of those before I watched that video. Man, we got a driver out here that's on a load board, not delivering on time because that motherfucker needs to sleep. Man, you picked up the load. You knew what you need to do when you picked the load up, and then you're going to say, I'm just not going to be unsafe. Oh, man, that was the first time I ever left a comment like that. I mean, I didn't really dig in, but I was just like, he's always bragging about how fast his truck is and stuff, and I was like, I guess it doesn't matter how fast your truck goes if you ain't making it to your appointments on time. Thugsy Mac, what's up? Just got off the phone with him. What's Slime Pack? When are we getting the video of the new truck? Yeah, I just missed Slime Pack up here by a couple days or something like that. Night Rider, too much drama here today. Shower time, get my ass in Edwardsville, Kansas, 5 mile. an hour pickup delivering to King Supers off Tower Road out there by my house. Nothing but a nightmare up there unloading. It is probably the worst. It's like the worst. Well, I hate to say that because they got one that's closer to downtown Denver that is probably the worst of them. But yeah, that King Supers you're going to. Or actually, is that King Supers? Yeah, that King Supers you're going to. If you just look south about 13 miles south, that's kind of where I live, like straight down south. Slime Pack, I'm not worried about a truck, enjoying my life and getting ahead on my health. That's what I'm talking about. And when I turn this lease in December, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing myself. You know what? There's another Tyson place I went to. It was a decent place. And speaking of Tyson, Russellville, Arkansas. Not the big plant one, but there's that smaller coast. I don't know if that's technically a Tyson. I think they just handle all the Tyson stuff there, but it's like a little cold storage place. That place is a good place to pick up from. Walkaway leases are good. You ain't gonna burn this one. Yeah, I do kind of miss giving a fuck about a truck though. Now that I'm in this lease, I mean, yeah, see if Slime Pack wants to continue out here at the Ink and put down that, what, $11,000, $10,000, whatever it's at right now on that lease purchase. You see I'm verified now with the check badge, yeah. I hated going to the Safeway distribution center at Colorado and I-70. Yeah, I think the best place to deliver, if you got to deliver at one of those places, is the King Supers. Well, actually, I get them mixed up. There's one kind of back behind that TA. I don't remember if that's Kroger or if it's Safeway. I think it's Kroger. That place is decent to drop off at. Plus, they got a new cold storage out in Colorado. That one's good to deliver to. But Colorado does actually have some bad places to deliver to. I haven't been to many of them in a while, but there's a few bad places to go out there and bad spots. All right, Leah finally getting settled into her new truck, sort of. It's different with the 2 number in front of it. Yep. Especially now when I see these guys driving around with like them 2 4s and 2 3s and you know, or not 2 7, like the 2 7. Well, depends on what year. When that third digit's like a 4, a 3, a 2, I know them guys are making some money because those trucks are either paid off or they're about to be paid off. The U-71 trailers are coming without weigh scales. I haven't seen one of those. Colorado real estate is high as fuck. I've been looking at some brand new houses down in Texas, starting about 150. Yeah, Colorado's, I think the market's kind of calming down a little bit. I'm in the position right now where I'm hoping the prices go up. You know what I mean? All right. Remember Latinos for Trump. Yeah, I remember Latinos for Trump. I was talking to somebody that used to be on the driver advisory board at Prime, and one of the things they suggested was, so one of the good things about the Prime app is you got all this information, right? So you pick up a trailer, it tells you like what's needed on it and all this other kind of stuff. And one of the suggestions was putting, like if you got a trailer calibrated, have that calibration date go in the app as well. And then to take it a step further, if you got a trailer that was uncalibrated or it was showing it hadn't been calibrated in a year or something, go get it calibrated and then get reimbursed for the scale ticket. I heard the Houston market is going to crash. I don't know anything about markets anywhere else. My brother lives in Houston, and it just seems like there's a lot of flooding going on out there at times. I know his house got flooded, and I wouldn't. I mean, but again, I don't know too much about that market. I heard the housing market is going to crash soon. Okay, wait. Okay, let me read that comment again because I must have got something wrong on that. If I can find it. All right, the housing market. Okay. You know, the housing market could crash. It could do whatever, right? In the long run, it's always going to come back. So markets are supposed to kind of go up and down. I'm in a position where it really doesn't matter too much because at some point, if I sell a house, I'll be buying a house. So the difference is going to be the same, kind of. And I'd probably be buying in a little bit less of a area, I guess. So now the condo would be a different situation if I was trying to sell that, because I would be kind of selling that on its own. All right. Shamarcus, Million Mile Lyle. Yep. As a matter of fact, they were just telling me where they should send the plaque. I should just sit back here and hang it up right here when I'm doing videos so everybody can see it. No, I'm joking. Would be great if we could punch in a trailer and see if it's got issues before we hook to it. That would be good. And here's another thing that almost doesn't make sense, right? So they got the little thing on the app where you can find trailer, right? That's not for any trailer number. That's for the fucking trailer you're hooked to. I know where that trailer is. But how about I go somewhere to a meat plant and they say, okay, go pick up 241760. And if I could go into the app and type in 241760 and then it tells me where that's located, that helps me out. Telling me where the goddamn trailer is I'm already attached to ain't helping me. So there's a good suggestion. Well, it is packed up here, though. It might be thinning out a little bit, but people have trailers parked everywhere. I don't think that a lot of people even know that they got that trailer lot down below the training pad down there. I mean, that would be a help. Seriously, the putting in the trailer, getting the location of the trailer that you punch in. All right, wait. Did you hear about the lady that was sleeping under the trailer in Nashville? Loves, and a dude pulled out and ran her over and killed her. Who was going to be that stupid to lay under a trailer? I did hear something about that. First of all, okay, do you know what truck stop they're talking about in Nashville? Oh, you said the Loves. Man, there's who would, all right, maybe there's some people that stop at that Loves. I stopped at that Loves one time and I was like, this is the last time. And it was when I was like well, I wasn't brand new. I had somebody on my truck, it wasn't a student, and we delivered like right down there in Nashville. And we're gonna stop by there since it was close by and get a shower. First of all, it was packed and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was just a shitty Loves down. Is there gonna be? Oh, wait. Is there another wager going on to see how long your buddy will stay running the spot market since he couldn't last at Trans Am, but has his own truck now? I'm done. I didn't even want to make the last bet. But you know how people are. You know, you win some money and then they're like, you know, come on, man, double or nothing. So I was like, you know what, okay. That was a foolish bet anyway. I mean, I think I know what my number would be on that. All right, have a good night, Leah. What's that bullshit that little saying that they got? Past performance is indicative of future results. Georgia trucker, I would give more than 3 if I were to be wagering on that. And I lost $50 on that. I think Richie Rich bet on that, and he made like $200 or something. Went out to eat and everything. Well, this truck just drove by that had more shit and it's on his dash than I think I've ever seen. All right. On the YouTube wannabe 6318, how long do I plan on trucking? Man, I don't know. I'm 58 now. I think, man, it's hard to say. A lot of that's going to have to do with the market, stuff like that. I really haven't got too deep into it in terms of seeing what my wife's thoughts are on it, because I'm usually the type that's like, you know what, let's worry about it when it's time to worry about it. And that's with anything. But I don't know. I think it'll probably be right around 62. I mean, it just depends. I mean, it's a tough question. You know, are we going to sell the house, sell the condo, put that money somewhere else and rent? You know, with rent, there's nothing to worry. You know, we don't have to worry about depending on where we live and stuff like that, HOAs, taxes, all that kind of stuff. Man, I don't know. It's just a lot to think about. David Hull, what's your favorite big trucking attorney billboard along the interstates? Man, are you talking about that guy in Indiana? I think 313, what's up? All right, on the two wannabe 6318. I'm looking to get into the game and going with Prime, looking for a mentor. Man, there's a ton of people out here that know a ton of shit. Nobody knows everything. That's the beauty of this channel, is I know so many fucking people that have saved me time, money, brain damage, all that kind of stuff. So I usually have my email or something in the description or something somewhere. So people, as a matter of fact, I just got off the phone with somebody today that sent me a message and had something to talk to. And I was like, you know, rather than going back and forth over a message, let me just call. Boom. So I watched somebody today that says people are having a hard time selling their homes. It really depends on where you're located at, what kind of house it is. What price range is in. The big talk, or yeah, I'm talking about the guy with the hammer. Yeah. The thing with truckers is asking 10 drivers the same question, you get 10 different answers. A lot of times there's more than one way to skin a cat too, you know what I mean? Like I talk to people and, you know, I know that I'm not, you know, I have the advice, not necessarily advice, but the way that I do things where I'm like, I don't necessarily look at the revenue, any of that kind of stuff. I'm more concerned about where I'm going and all that kind of stuff. 9 other drivers will say I'm completely wrong about that. You know what I mean? And then another one is I'd rather just keep my fucking trailer, go get a load, and don't do dropping hooks. But I'm in the minority on that. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. And there's a bunch of different ways to be successful. So I don't think that everybody has to have the same answer. I've been a follower of your channel for a while, and you have an old number for you. I'll hit you up when I get on board. Yeah, I've had the same phone number since some of these drivers been driving shit. Or been alive. What am I talking about? All right, David, I wonder if buying a house in Springfield would work out good for home time and getting better paying loads. You know what? One thing I do like about coming off of home time here rather than in Denver is I can pick where I'm going, you know, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like if they have a load going somewhere I don't want to go, I just say, no, I don't want that load. So I like it for that. I don't necessarily worry about the money on a load like that, but I'm not 100% sure what the Springfield housing market is. I know that Springfield is a place where I could see the market slowing down a little bit, not because there's anything wrong with it, because I know somebody that bought a house out here super cheap, right? And now it's gone up in value and stuff like that. I'm just not sure how many that there's enough people in Springfield to keep the housing market hot like that. And I'm including all the surrounding areas, Republic, just all that. I just don't know. Dropping hooks are cheaper than live loads. You know, I've never really done the math on that. Yeah, I'd just rather go to a nice little cold storage place, you know, check in. All right, go to dock, 32, go to dock 32, have them load me, do whatever I got to do, then be out. Rather than going to go pick up at some meat plant and have a drop dead time tomorrow at 1800, and then the load ain't ready. Oh, they don't pay attention on shuttle loads or whatever it would be, and then the load ain't ready. So they wonder why some people fall asleep on some of these loads and stuff. Well, if I'm expecting a load to be done by a certain time, and now it's even past that, but I couldn't really sleep anyway, I don't necessarily have that problem. But yeah, I can see that being a problem where you're expecting a load to get done. Now it's not done. Now your sleep schedule's all jacked up, and I can't stand meat plants. David, where do you think the best place for a trucker to buy a house would be as far as loads coming back, home time? You know you're getting a load. Man, some places, like, there's places you could live that aren't necessarily places you want to live for certain reasons. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with a lot of those properties in Illinois off of 80 or whatever, because you're always going by there, but the taxes are going to kill you out there on the property tax. The same thing with Nebraska. You might get a cheap house, but they're going to kill you on them taxes. I think but I mean, without worrying about all that, anything along 80, like from the west coast to the east coast, you're always going to be on 80, and you're always going to be by a load. Fucking Georgia. It seems like I'm in Georgia way more than I want. I don't know about getting a good load out of there. It seems like everything's going to be somewhat cheap coming out of there, especially if you're on the southern side of Atlanta, picking up at that Hawaiian rolls place. That you're going to get out of there, but you're going to get out of there cheap. Colorado sucks as far as that goes. Nothing's going to naturally go through I-70. Shit, Nashville, all that, the whole corridor seems like I'm always through Nashville and all those surrounding cities. I don't know. Anybody else got any ideas? Throw that shit in the comments. And Laquita, I don't know if you're watching this or not. I think I might have saw your son out there looking at trucks the other day. I'm not sure if it was him, but I saw somebody out there opening some doors on some Peterbilts and stuff like that. What's up, Rusty, man? My elbows aren't even rusty yet. Shoot. Man, California, shit. I was about to, if California was a little bit cheaper, I was thinking about fucking scooping up some shit in San Diego. I miss San Diego a lot. Moving to Springfield 2 years ago, love it. Way cheaper than living in Florida, and it's great being near the terminal. Yeah, I know somebody that bought a brand new house out here for like, I'm thinking it had to be 280. A brand new house. I think it was in Republic, if I remember correct. It was 280, and the reason I remember that is because I was like, man, that's like cheaper than my condo. Laredo might not be a great place to live, but it's good for the housing market and a lot of loads. Man, Laredo, Texas, is too goddamn hot. And then my boy Ed, he's in and out of here sometimes. He he's on home time right now in Tucson, Arizona. He's telling me them heating bills are like, or them the electric bill, whatever, is like $500 something a month. And that shit just runs 24 hours a day. It's too fucking hot. I thought about Laredo, saw some sign billboards, brand new homes starting off at 150, can handle that. Man, there's other places in Texas I think I would spend maybe $30,000 more. Because I mean, most of Texas is like pretty. I mean, even like the Fort Worth area, all that, Irving, all that. That's pretty cheap up there. I mean, and if you compare it to other markets, then you got all these other places that are like between big cities where houses are pretty cheap. And don't get down there near El Paso and all that. Matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, let's see what the housing market's like in Lubbock, Texas. All right, let's see. That seemed like a nice little off-grid place to kind of. Oh yeah, they got you. Pretty affordable area. I kind of like this little ranch house they got there. Looks like a older one. 250 something. Yeah, that's a nice little house. Anyway, yeah, you can buy all kind. I don't do it as much anymore since I'm kind of changed what my thoughts and stuff are. But I used to drive by these cities, and I'd be like, when I stopped driving, I'd look up, what the houses are in those areas, and there's a lot of places throughout the country that have some decently priced houses. Now, I don't know how much it's going to be worth in the future, so there's two sides of that coin. Do I want to buy it? I mean, what's a good example? Do I want to buy, fuck, you name the place. Do I want to buy a place that's like cheap? Let's say 150 for a house that might cost 500,000 somewhere else, but then the house still be worth 150 8 years from now. That's kind of the balance right there. Georgia trucker, Lubbock is a place a company can never get you to, according to some people. That's what I heard, man. That's what I heard. Oh man, I don't even want to start. I usually stay. All right, Buy 3 marketing usually stays out 2 to 3 months at a time on the road, but I've been out a month on this, quitting, and been feeling like going home the last couple of weeks. I've been waiting to easiest loads possible. That's how it was on this last run I was out, because my mind was prepared to coming back at 5 to 6 weeks off, or 5 to 6 weeks out. And then when things got changed up and I was going to be out almost 8 weeks, it was like, I straight up told my fleet manager, I was like, listen, I'm like them old basketball. Well, okay, I'm like the old new basketball players now, not the old basketball players like Dominique Wilkins and Keem Olajuwon, all them. I'm like the new old guys like LeBron or something like that, where you got to manage my time, man. I just can't be out here, running it up. I'm gonna need to take I'm gonna have to take a full break off between some of these loads or whatever it is. And like it was actually I had to talk myself into finishing out the last like week and a half. Now the last time I stayed out really long, I stayed out, this is years ago at this point, but I stayed out 5 months because I was trying to keep everything floating, and I didn't even have a chance to be tired about that shit. I was just focused on what I had to handle. She looks like we got them new upgrades pulling in here. But yeah, I guess in terms of talking about Lubbock and all that stuff goes, I guess we will get to see. I'm interested to see how things work out with other drivers that live in Lubbock that haven't been able to get to home time on Lubbock that easy. I tell you what place did have some good houses that were relatively good values in terms of comparing it to what I'm currently living in. Probably the only city I would live in, potentially in that state, would be that whole Bentonville area. So you got like Bentonville, and then there's like maybe a couple other cities that are kind of around that. So maybe like this 30-mile, 25-mile radius. I kind of like that, and I figured that's always gonna hold up a little bit because you got so much of that Walmart management that's living in that area, propping up the values like that. All right, Georgia Trucker, you can live in Lubbock if you dispatch yourself because nobody can dispatch you better than you can dispatch yourself. I'm sure you've seen all the latest updates. Yep, I did see all the latest updates. I didn't even have to look at the damn video. As soon as I got, some of you guys that watch some of these trucking channels, you see my boy 412 up in there leaving comments and everything. And as soon as I got that text message from 412 and I saw the title of that video, I didn't even watch it. I just sent the money over. Amarillo, Texas looks like a nice area to live. Man, looks like it's a good place to catch some fucking snakes. I don't know if I'd want to live. Like, I haven't seen enough of it to know whether I'd want to live there or not, I guess. Gene Poole, what's up? Man, I was wishing some people that came in that saw the fucking video that triggered me yesterday. Boy, they got in his ass in them comments, boy. All right, running bobtail in Iowa. I hate driving bobtail. But I love Iowa. Till that winter gets on that ass. Peg leg. Now that Bill Clinton is not the governor of Arkansas, I'll live there in a heartbeat. Man, it doesn't care who's the. That's one thing you were never going to hear me say is I'm not getting my grind on or doing something. Like, I cannot let some shit like that keep me from doing what I'm going to do. I mean, who's the governor there now? Sarah Huckabee or whatever. I'm not sure that's, she's killing it out there either. I don't know. I don't keep up with it, but. All right, let's see. Shout out to these old school truckers. Those of you guys just came in. We were talking about Trucker Scooby-Doo a while back. And Junior Honduras, I talked to him yesterday. Another one, not no old school driver, but somebody that I kind of give a lot of respect to in terms of YouTube channel, Cash is King Trucking. When I had my truck before it caught on fire, I was like, man, what am I going to do when this truck is paid off? Because I'm not doing another lease purchase. I'm not doing that. So what am I going to do and everything? And I know he never really puts out where he was working at, but I was like, man, when my truck gets kicked off the fleet, I got to get with him and see, where he's at and see if he'd tell me that information. Because I kind of like the way his company runs him, or he runs his, however that works out. Shout out to him. But we got all the little fleets up here today. Star, Supernova, Penske. I don't know who's running all these Penske trucks, but they had 2 Penske trucks up here pulling prime trailers yesterday. What's that other one? Rema. Seen them up here, or at least one of them. IWX, obviously. Trans Am. Listen, you have all these people on Facebook, laughing at somebody for taking the wrong road down to the terminal. Not everybody hears that shit. Not everybody knows what entrance you're supposed to take, but a Trans Am driver did drive down the wrong road down Mayfair to get into the terminal yesterday. I saw him when I was sitting kind of over there by that truck transfer station, kind of by the outbound and everything. So yeah, Trans Am hit that up yesterday. BLC, I think. So there's a ton of people up here. And I think I saw my first oversized prime flatbed load pulling out of here this morning. All right, I got to tell everybody, listen, at some point, if there's one thing in this world that triggers me, it's time itself and being late for anything. And like I said, I don't like using that word trigger because that's like some new age hippie shit or whatever. But Go check out this channel called Country Trucker. I think it's his last video, unless he put something else out today. He was late on a load, and I'm telling, man, one of my boys got me hooked on that shit, because it always seems like he's falling asleep or not getting where he needs to go on time and all this shit. And I've never said anything about it, but that one yesterday just triggered me for some reason. And I never left a comment or anything like that. And I could not hold back. Watch that video. If you're bored. I'm not gonna put any. I'm all about safety. If I'm too sleepy to drive, I'm not gonna drive. Oh man, triggering. Roadrunner Naya does a lot of tour stuff where she is, and from what I understand, working on tours and music group is real lucrative. That's what I heard too. And there's somebody else that I know that does that stuff. The problem is, I'm just not sure I would want to commit to that kind of. To the amount of time you need to stay out on those. And not only that, I think if that weather gets fucked up, you might just have to push through that. You know what I mean? And, I was thinking about this whole training thing yesterday. And I toss it around every now and then. I'm just like, man, because, if you watch the prime safety meetings and all that kind of stuff, they'd say, well, our average, solo truck made this much money, which is a lie. Not necessarily a lie, but how's it getting calculated? And our average trainers or whatever make this much money. It's like they're doing themselves a disservice putting out them low numbers. I mean, when you're training, you make so much money. But the thing that scares me is on both ends, being a student or being a trainer, just had it. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just, this is just the student that's going to roll the truck. There's 2 trainers that I know about just recently. One actually did roll the truck, or know of. I'm hearing this secondhand, did roll the truck. And then I know another trainer that put it in a ditch, didn't get stuck in the ditch, but pulled out of it. So went off the highway into the ditch, threw the student out under the, out of the bunk and all this stuff. And then, kind of recovered, but then, triggered a camera event and all this kind of stuff. So, I believe that was costly to his job and everything. And I'm just thinking, man, I mean, I was so concerned about training my trainer last summer when he was on my truck that I put a deer guard on my truck, because I didn't have a deer guard on my truck. And I was like, well, if we're going to be driving double the time, I have double the chance of hitting a deer. So let me put a deer guard on there. Same thing when it comes to this other stuff. And it's that is the main thing that is keeping me from doing it. Not because I don't want to train. I mean, I don't want to be sleepy all the time. That I don't want. But it's how dumb would I feel if I trained to stack up some money real quick, which, it would help, with some of the, medium-term goals. I actually probably help me more with the short-term goals than the medium or long-term goals. But how stupid would I feel if I did that shit to make a little extra money, and then some shit like that happened to me? I was just like, yeah, no, let me just get that out of my head. Joe Wilson, what's lucrative? They don't discuss money. They say shit like this. Our average solo driver, and all these numbers are low, and they don't tell you what they're calculating. So they're saying the average solo driver is $1,600 a week. That's not real. Now, are you including every truck that's off, every truck that's in the shop, every truck that's paid off, not paid off, all this stuff? Because then maybe I could see $1,600, but nobody I'm talking to is averaging $1,600. Everybody's making way more than that, by at least $700 to $1,000 a week. And then they say the average team is making $3,500, and that's like super low. That's like way off of what I was making as a trainer. So uh, they are giving out the numbers. I just think the numbers they're giving out are like way too low. On the tube wannabe 6318 will be looking for a trainer in a few months. And I don't know all the trainers and all that kind of stuff. I know that there's a lot of good trainers. I think there's some bad trainers as well. But yeah. And here's the thing that they don't say about the trainer. All they talk about is the money. You know what I mean? They don't talk about the lack of sleep, like being up every time the truck goes in reverse, not being able to have conversations, because there's always two people in the truck. I mean, shit, technically, I mean, he didn't need no training. I trained my trainer last summer, and he could get down, right? The reason he had to go back through training was because he went to go work at Walmart and be a yard dog or whatever. So I could sleep as much as I wanted to. I didn't need to worry about him. I still was tired. You know what I mean? And I did it because it was him. And even if somebody else had the same qualifications and I knew him or had the same qualifications, but I didn't know him, I wouldn't have done it. It's a lot more, like, it's so easy. It's easy when you just think about the money, but nobody thinks about there was a truck. Anyway, I don't know. It's a lot. That money's like, I don't think that they could pay. There's BLC. I don't know if there's enough money. If it's just based on money, I don't think there's any amount of money that would really make that worth it for me to do it. It'd have to be more than money. So every time I trained somebody, it was more than the money. Okay, with taking as much. Okay, with taking as much and as long a home time as needed. Man, you can't be taking off that much time when you're in training. When I was in training, I think my trainer used to take off maybe a week at a time. So that would give me maybe 11 days, maybe 12 days. Shit, even when I go back out on the truck tomorrow or whenever, you know how much longer that trailer looks when you haven't driven in a while? Imagine being in training. That trailer looks like it's 75 feet long. And I gotta turn this damn truck on. It's getting hot. All right, 6077. Having a paid off truck at Prime is where it's at. I'm averaging $400 to $5,500 net weekly after deductions. That's what I'm talking about. So if you take that number and subtract out, yeah, and that would be about right. So if you take, when I hear most people talking about what they're making at Prime, you take let's say that you're making, let's average that out to $5,000 a week that you're making. Maybe let's use $5,000. My truck payment's a little bit less than what some of these other truck payments are. Especially the newer trucks. So I don't know what the new truck payments are, but let's say they're $1,500. So 5 minus 15 is $3,500. That's pretty much where most people are averaging 25, 3,500 a week. So yeah, that's about right. All right, Mel drove 20 years OTR, started off in 48 footers, ended up with 53s. I'm not even sure if I should have done this, but this company, to get me loaded, wanted me to pull a smile at somebody else's trailer out of a door and put mine in the door and stuff like that. Backing that shit in, that trailer moved so much, man. That was harder than backing the long trailer in. That shit was like, I mean, it was weird how much that trailer moved when you were trying to get it in. Lenny, what's going on, man? Henderson, Colorado. That's a good place. No APU fees or over mileage. Yep. I'm telling you, it all depends on what you're really trying to do, but that lease purchase at Prime, I wouldn't do it if I was training. If I was going to be a real trainer, and I'm saying like training multiple students a year, I probably would stick with a regular lease. But as a solo driver, if you plan on being at Prime for 3 years, I don't think there's a better situation than that 3-year lease purchase. I drove for Prime as well. My average home time was 5 days off every 3 months. Were you at Prime when them trucks were doing like 85 and shit? I talked to an old school driver at Prime. He's probably the oldest guy here at Prime. Old black dude. Actually, I've talked to a couple people who've been at Prime. One of them been here when the trucks were like super fast and everything. And then I guess Rob's mom was like all involved in everything, and she's the one that came up with the flatbed division, or I forgot. I just shut up and let that guy talk, and he was telling me all kinds of old school stuff that Prime had going on. But yeah, getting back to that money and the lease purchase and all that stuff, man, there's a lot of shit that you could say about Prime. And I'll be one to be critical about them, because I don't think I could be as authentic if all I did was talk about the good shit at Prime. You got drivers at Prime, not all of them, and not the one I was referring to, but you got drivers at Prime, been at Prime 25 years, and say there's like everything's been perfect. Like, there's never been anything wrong with Prime the whole 25 years. How am I going to be authentic if I say some shit like that? Come on. So, like I said, there's a lot of stuff I can be critical about and I don't like and think is stupid or whatever it is. But when it just comes down to, like, most people say it's all about the money. If it's all about the money, then I don't think that you can go wrong at Prime, especially if you pay that truck off. There is no job out there as far as the company side goes. Like, you know, people are always talking about Walmart or, you know, whatever. With a paid off truck, it's not even comparable. Like, you're going to crush anything that anybody at Walmart's doing from a just pure money aspect. Now, they're not putting that money away in retirement like Walmart is, but I'm going to try that 595 truck stop. Looks like it has a lot of parking spots. Woo! Boy. I hope they clean that place up. That place looked like a damn junkyard last time I drove through there. Did you get that washout in Lakeland yesterday or Auburndale like we were talking about? I think if I was down in Miami, there's a truck parking. I hate paying for park. Well, you got to pay for truck parking at $5.95, but there's a truck parking club down near Miami that one of my boys put me up on that I would probably be going to before that $5.95 truck stop. But maybe they've cleaned that place up a little bit. What's up? I'm on a live. What's up, Dave Kinney? Just out here running my mouth, soaking up this last few days or this last day of freedom before I go turn in my taxes and make myself available to leave the yard. Robert, when is the new yard opening up in Griffith, Georgia? I don't know. I think it's going to be done in stages, so I'm not exactly sure what those stages are. JJR, all right, I'm waiting on a door at Publix. I was on a load. This is my second stop, actually, the 90, all right. Mel, Prime. Okay, Prime had, and I'm sure still has a lot of problems. If you're new, take the time to learn expenses before committing to independent lease because it can break you real quick. That's one thing I will say. And in a perfect world, I would say, you know what, go company for a long time before you go lease, because I have seen people that have failed at leases for reasons that are kind of understandable. Like you see people that just fail just because they just fail. They're not ready or whatever. But some people I think are ready and all that stuff. And then they get that, they pick that wrong truck that just puts them in the ground. That just breaks down a lot or whatever the situation is. Jeremy Griggs. Jeremy, he commented on my boy's post yesterday. That was the first. Jeremy, I know you left a comment telling somebody they were lazy yesterday, and that was the first time I saw a video that triggered me where I had to leave a comment about his time management and everything. But I saw your little comment down there. They were killing him in them comments yesterday too. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Prime pays damn good from what I've seen talking with them this week. It works for me. I can't say it's going to work for everybody. Yep, that video was hard for me to watch yesterday. Like, somebody just being so casual about not being able to do a load and just rescheduling it because of something like that is just... All right, then you have people like Jeremy Griggs, who is always posting negative stuff if anyone posts about Prime. I don't know. Sometimes Jeremy seems to get on it and everything. I don't have a problem with him. Not as much as that motherfucker that was trying to tell me about my fucking money earlier in this video. That I had a problem with. Yeah, Jeremy, actually, you might want to go back to that video and see the comment that he replied to you on. I believe that he said something about him making more money than you in the comment section, so you might want to go back in there and tune him up again real quick. Because he did leave a comment. He did reply to your shit in there yesterday. I came out all right, Jeremy. Retired, own my home, free and clear. How long you gonna... Wait. There's some shit in the way of this when I'm trying to read it. How long you thinking you're going to be out this time? Oh, man, I don't know. Let's see. Let's just call this September right now. So let's see. All of September. If I stay out all of September, and then let's say the first week of October, let's just say that. So that would be, let's say October 7th. If I leave back out of the house, let's say the 21st, so that'd be October 21st. October 21st to November 21st. I don't know. I need to figure out how I'm going to run and break this up because I need to stay out 2 more times, or this time and 1 more time before I turn this truck in. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how I feel. If I'm out here fucking around the East Coast a lot, man, if I'm out here fucking around on the East Coast a lot and Connecticut and all this bullshit, I'll probably shorten it up. If I'm like chilling in the Midwest and doing all that stuff, then it's easier for me to stay out here mentally longer. So I don't know. I haven't thought about that. But let's say, I would say the mid-October is going to be about the longest. But if I could stretch it out longer, I would. So maybe. I don't know. And then, when am I going to think about this? I don't even want to talk about it. When we're out here, at these tight-ass meat plants doing dropping hooks, taking more photos than fucking Japanese tourists in the 1980s, I could see that wearing on me a little bit. I don't know. All right, East Coast is a big B as being patient goes. Now, some of that Northeast I don't mind. Like if you want to call, I don't necessarily know if I'd consider Pennsylvania to be the Northeast until you get over there by Philadelphia and all that. But I could do all of Pennsylvania. I could do upstate New York, and that doesn't like drain me or anything. And then going up to Maine, as long as I could get the right route out there. But some of the stuff's just not worth it. Like I talk to some people, and everything, and I'm just like, they get a load and I'm talking about, I'm like, man, I do not want that load. Well, I didn't like it either, but it paid, it paid like this or it paid like that. I never really think about it like that. I think about I'm sensitive like this, so I'll call myself a little bit. I think about the mental cost it's going to take more than the money that I'm going to be making on it. Because sometimes shit just, and I know somebody that runs Northeast, like runs it, and I'm just like, I don't know how you do it. Like I'm driving down 95 and doing all that, going through, or whatever, George Washington Bridge, all that shit, going through Connecticut. Man, there's like a 30 mile, maybe 40 mile, like, there's like 30 miles or 35 miles where there's nothing. You don't see nothing but tan and brown and beige and gray and white. And it just like puts me in a bad mood just going through there. Why are you taking pictures? Wait. Why are you taking pictures of trailers? Oh my God. Now, as if we don't have enough damn processes alone, now they want us to take pictures. Now, just think about the logistics of this. Now, I don't know when they're talking about implementing it. They say September. But whenever you pick up or drop a trailer, take all these damn pictures of the trailer and everything, in a perfect world, that's easy. But if you're at a meat plant that you barely got enough room to squeeze, between the trailers anyway, how are you going to be taking all these pictures? I guess you could pull it out into the aisle and do it all there, depending on where you're at. So, it's just, it's a lot of, that's why I said, I think some of the stuff that people think is practical, I think it would be easier for me to show them than to tell them. To have somebody that's making some of these decisions get on the truck and actually go out and do it. Not just listen to the drivers that are going to say everything that Prime comes up with is fine. I'm just saying actually do it. I mean, we're not just taking pictures of the trailers, and I guarantee it's going to come down to the pre-trip pretty soon. But taking pictures of all this paperwork too, like they are going to process, like we are getting processed to death. Like the process is in place. And I did just talk to somebody who was on driver advisory board a while back, and that, it's just like I just don't see why at some point, if you've been at Prime for any 5-7 years, whatever that time is, and you haven't had any issues, maybe you don't have to do these same processes and steps and everything. Anyway, I'm not even gonna get on that. That's gonna put me in a bad mood. I'm trying to get in a better mood. All right, I didn't even mind Beantown, New Jersey, New York City, that eats me. Boston, I did not like. As a matter of fact, on my no-go list is Chelsea Market, and technically I think it's Chelsea, but Boston, that is a do not go to list. My do not go to list right there. It's not that Boston's all that bad. It's like the washouts and stuff like that. Or if you don't have a load scheduled to pick up after you drop, it seems like whenever I'm in that area, I go the wrong direction. So now I'm paying tolls going in and leaving, then going back in potentially. New Jersey, I guess there's perks in New Jersey that I don't mind. All that shit down by New York City, I definitely mind that. They got me a couple times when I was brand new, because I would be thinking, I can still remember it too. Like, I get a load, and I forget what the city. One of them was Bohemia, and I think one of them was I forget. But I'm thinking, I'm not from the East Coast. I'm not from New York. So I'm thinking, I get this load, and it's to some city. To me, when I hear Bohemia, I think upstate New York, Woodstock, all that kind of stuff. And I don't look where that shit is, man. I put that shit in the GPS and saw where that shit was. I was like, all right, they got me. And I didn't even learn my lesson on that one. There was another one, because I was thinking it was, say, Brooklyn, New York, or Queens, or, that's what I would be thinking the address was. I wouldn't be thinking that Bohemia or whatever it was, New York, is on Long Island, or, there's other ones in Queens, or whatever the situation is. But they got me on that. After the second time they got me, I started, anytime I get a load, I Google that place, that city, to Jersey City, New Jersey, just to orient me into where I'm actually going. So if I see anything around that perimeter, it's a no-go. It's just not worth it for me. Meditation music, that's more time off my clock. I'm telling you. Insurance, they'll scam you on insurance. If you don't, we didn't have smartphones back when I drove. I spent a small fortune on the one-step film. Yep, I never did that for work, but I did have them. I would be carrying around some of them instant cameras everywhere, but I'd have to get it developed. So I'm not sure if you're talking about Polaroid or what. What's the purpose of taking pictures? Just in case somebody drops the trailer with damage. All right, I'm going to just play devil's advocate. In case you pick up a trailer or drop a trailer, you're basically saying there's no damage on this trailer or anything like that when you drop it, right? And then when you pick it up, you didn't pick it up with any damage, whatever. Most of your damage is going to be on the sides of the trailer, right? Well, let's say I did do a bunch of damage to this trailer, and I gotta, put a gash down the side of the trailer. I could take a picture of the side of another trailer, you know what I mean? And put that one in. There ain't no trailer numbers on the side of the trailer, right? I better not say that, because now we're going to have trailer numbers on the side of every trailer. I'm just saying that's why they're doing it. And I'm just like, man, can I just take the $1,000 deductible hit? Jeremy Griggs says I did. Are you referring to you went back there and lit him up for his comment about him making more money than you? Man, I gotta say, as Cargill and Dodge City can take a high dive into shallow water, they decided on waiting till the T of the last minute to load a trailer. That's at least you got it done. You go to some of them places out there in I forget which one, but you'll go to one and they won't have the load ready, but the load won't pay attention at the O1. Now, I did hear that it'll pay attention if for some reason you can't make the O2 or it needs to be rescheduled or something like that. So maybe that's when you go in there and use the country trucker thing. If there's one thing I'm not going to do, I'm going to be safe out here on the road. I'm not going to be out there driving all around, putting anybody else in danger. So maybe you get it rescheduled and pick up the detention on that one. I left Springfield a couple hours ago. Man, I'm sitting right out here by the backside of the Millennium Building. Welcome back to the Prime Matrix, man. It's going to take me a while to get back in the groove. I had a JBS load with 50 pages, bill lading. Fuck that. I scanned the first page. I did that too. And you know what? There's one guy, and I don't remember his name. Next time I talk to him, I got to tell him how much I appreciate him. You get some of these people in there that are like nitpicking everything and like, whatever, the normal shit. But there's that one cool guy that does the live load calls, and you just give me your truck number. Okay, I see you're in Indianapolis at the coal storage, headed to Pottstown, Pennsylvania for a delivery on Monday. You have 40,000 pounds. That looks good. This, that. You have a lock on your trailer. You're good to go. Man, that guy's a hero right there. That's the one guy at Prime that does that. And I'm sure everybody's got him at least a couple times. Are they still using? Are they? Okay, you talking about Thermo King? I think we're still mixing it up. I've seen new trailers with both Thermo Kings and Carrier on it, if I remember. Alan, that's him. Yeah. Man, I need to go see him. That dude's cool as the other side of the pillow. And then you'll have those other people, some of the other people, and, I'll give them about 5 minutes, because once I'm on the phone for 5 minutes waiting around for somebody to pick up, I don't know if it's going to be another 5 minutes or another 35 minutes, so I leave. And I try to memorize where I'm going, and I'll have some shit written down that I could look at for any questions they might ask. And somebody asked me for a seal number. I'm like, okay, why are you asking me for a seal number if I just send in the bills and the seal number's on the bill? So I tell them, hey, I'm not gonna be able to get that to you. I'm rolling right now. Well, you're not supposed to drive until I was like, you know what? In a perfect world, that's doable, but it's not a perfect world out here. So if you want, I can call you back when I stop in a few hours and we can go over this. My thing just cut up. If it's not right, then you have the chance of having to take it back to the customer. It's like, come on. I think that people that have been driving, at least for let's say 2 years, know when there's a reason. Because I'll do this. If I have a load and things don't look right, I'll go back over this with the live load people. I'll take that shit serious. There was a time when my bill said that it was 40,000 pounds or something, and I looked at my trailer scales and I was like, this can't be right. And I spoke to the live load people about that. Hey, my bills are saying 40,000 on this. My scale on my truck says otherwise. All right, boom, let me call. Yeah, you know what? Um, Go check back in. They didn't put all the product on the trailer, whatever it is. So anyway, my wife Andrea's in the house. What's up? Circle in and outs. I don't circle shit on that just out of spite alone. It'd matter if it made a difference. Like, hey, if you circle, our AI could pick it up, and then you won't have to make these calls anymore or something like that. But man, I know where I'm going. I know what the temperature is. Like, what am I circling all this stuff for? The other people are, all right, Rasta. The other people be doing it too thoroughly, making you initial and put. Man, I don't do any. I'll put in and out times if I'm getting some detention on it. But it's just, man, I just don't think that people understand. Like like you have those cool places to pick up, right? Like, it could be Smithfield or whatever in Anderson, Indiana, whatever it is. You know, where they give you the bills and you could just sit down in your truck and go through everything and take all the pictures. And you're right there. But they don't understand how big of a pain it is to get your bills right when you're leaving and have to do all this calling and taking pictures of everything. And so anyway, yeah. Looks like I'm back. Dave Kenny, I'm back, man. I still got to get my mind right, though. I tell you, though, I'm looking forward to getting out of here, though. They don't understand a 14-hour time clock. That's one thing they don't understand. And you know what? Fuck a 14-hour time clock. They don't understand. All right, I'm picking up this load at 6 p.m. I got a few hours left on my clock, but my intention is to just drive this out, go to the next truck stop, take my 10 right then or whatever the situation could be. And now you're holding me up. And in the process, in the time it took for me to get held up, 3 other people took a spot that I might have had available at the truck stop. I mean, in a perfect world, I mean, if I would say that everything they're doing is helpful to some degree or another. Is it? What's that damn saying? Old people say. I should know this since I'm old. Is the juice worth the squeeze or whatever? Rasta, man, you got that? Why the fuck am I here again? Look, what do you mean by that? Did you ever get another lease purchase truck? Or are you still doing your regular lease? I'm not going to get another lease purchase truck just because it doesn't make sense for me to do it. I do feel a little stupid driving around a regular lease. Not necessarily... How should I put this? In essence, I mean, when my truck burned down, the money never changed as far as really anything goes. Actually, it might have worked out a little bit more in my advantage. It's just the difference between having money up front and money down the road and stuff like that. But what I'm afraid of in this situation is if something happens to this truck, like I can tell you right now, it needs some fucking shocks. It technically doesn't need shocks. Like if I took it in there, like when I brought it in there when I got it, they aren't going to say it needs shocks, or, you know, that's just something that they weren't going to do. But it needs shocks. There's no way I'd be driving around in this bouncy ass truck if this was my own truck. I would care a little bit more about this. It's just hard for me to drive something and not really care about it like that. So that's hard on me. So I kind of feel a little. I will feel stupid if something needs to get fixed before this lease is up, and I'm fixing it for some other motherfucker. But so I still think that it's a better route than me to go doing a whole nother lease purchase. All right, Andrea, just call me before you go to sleep tonight. Dave Kinney, so are you waiting on a load? Nope, I'm not even on the board yet. I need to turn in my taxes tomorrow. I was thinking about running in there and doing it on Friday and getting that out of the way, but by the time I got the worst thing about keeping my truck up here in Springfield is that's a long fucking walk between where you park your car and where my truck might be. So by the time I got done doing all that walking, and it was like damn near 100 degrees out here, I was not in the mood to go walk into Abacus. So I'm gonna go in there tomorrow, like whenever they open, hand them my taxes, and then tell my fleet manager I'm ready to roll. My fleet manager used to dispatch me off the yard. Now I think they took away his privileges as far as that goes. So I'll give a driver lineup, see what they got, and then they probably won't have anything, and then I'll do my cheat code, which is walking in there 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning. I've never left there without a load when I walk in there in those time periods, and then get a load and get out. So I'm not on the list yet. 14 hours ran under the old DOT hours. The juice is always worth the squeeze when old age and treachery overcome youth and skill. There you go. All right, so Andrea, I didn't know that. So our grandkid thinks he's a. I don't know if he's listening right now or not, but I guess I've said it enough to where it doesn't matter. He thinks he's a goddamn parrot, so now he's out here saying fucking and shit. Mr. Biggs, just checking in. Are you fixing something on the truck? No, I just came off of home time and just got back up to the terminal on Friday. And I'll be headed out of here on Monday. I was possibly thinking about trying to get out of here on Friday, but I was too damn tired by the time I got done. By the time I got done going back and forth between moving shit from my car into my truck. All right, so my wife and them say they miss me already. Man, I'm gonna tell you, that grandkid is a damn menace. So my wife is a grandmom and part-time babysitter of this little menace, and he's like raising hell. Like in the middle of the night, she goes to work at she gets up way earlier than I think she needs to, but she goes to work, gets there like 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Well, this kid is like raising hell and whining and doing all kinds of shit, man. I got the best sleep of my time off when I got back to the terminal that first night. I took some Tylenol PM, man. I woke up. I think I went to sleep at like 9 p.m. and literally slept all the way, no wake up, no nothing, all the way to like 6:30 in the morning. And that's because I was home, but I don't think I got any sleep that whole time. So I was just telling my wife, I don't know how she does it. So I'm not sure my kid, I might not raise a kid to be the right way or, for this generation, but I can tell you one thing. He would be a little quieter than he is now. Which isn't where I should be. I shouldn't be in the position to have to be a mean grandparent. So I'm not being one, but shit, if I had to deal with that every day, I think I might have to. Earl, 5197, what's up from Sacramento? I saw the replay of the last live and had me laughing on my run at the beginning of the stream. Man, I took one down, boy. There was one in between the last one and then, I don't know, there's one of them. I think I was getting a little too on some of my thoughts on stuff. I took that one down. Not that I just no need for any contention or going out of my way for some contention. But it is hot. Well, they got a lot of students up here. Either I'm like tripping or they got a ton of new students up here because they got a bunch of people walking around with these damn vests. Even when I was new in Salt Lake City, I had to put that away unless I was on the pad. All goods, just stay true, and yes, it's humid as fucking Springfield. And I'm telling you, it rained so much yesterday. But I wanted to get to Walmart, where I parked my car up there back behind the long-term parking, but way up near the building, as far as you could get. My car was the only car that had like that much water sitting like where you had to step in it to get in the car. I had to get back to the west side. Still haven't gone in and burned my last $11 in the cafeteria. I wonder if I could check. I suppose we have some jacket waiting for me. I should see if they could trade that for some points, because I ain't gonna wear no jacket. Shout out from Denver, headed to West Jordan. See, I wouldn't mind that run now. Go out there to West Jordan, hang out with my little Mormon friends and everything out there. Mr. Man, what's up? Mel, just give you an idea, the last time I was in Springfield yard, the driver motel wasn't open yet. They were still working on it. Did they ever open it? We were all a days in. Oh yeah, they still got that. They did finish, man. They've had that since I've been at Prime, so that's been at least 7 years. And they probably still got the same beds from 7 years ago. Young people won't get this. But when you get a little bit older, man, those beds in that Campus Inn, boy, that puts a work in on you right there. But yeah, they got that place going. I normally don't stay there. Normally, I'll just go ahead and go to the Oasis. It's for a little bit more money. Write it off on your taxes. Throw some other shit on it. Like if you eat and everything, throw that on the bill. It all comes out as one bill. Boom. Send that in with my taxes. I'm good to go. That day's in is horrible. As a matter of fact, I picked up a student that was at that day's in and was with another trainer before me. And I specifically remember telling that student, do you see where you're at right now? Yes. I said, your job is to do well enough that this is the last time you're going to have to stay in a place like this. I'm a company driver, just told my dispatcher on Thursday, I don't want to load till Friday. I need basically a day to relax. Absolutely, I've done that. And if they don't give it to you or they push back on it, I'd just say the same thing to, I don't see why anybody would have a problem with that. Here's how I really learned to run my clock. I was in Alabama. I was down south. And I was trying to run myself out of hours, so I had to take a 34. No matter what I did, there was a load that was matching my fucking hours. Finally, I just said, you know what? When I'm done delivering this load, make me available. Like, I don't need a 34, but I at least need a 24. So, all right, Mr. Mayhem, I don't care much about the beds at campus, but how they always woke me up pushing the carts every 10 minutes. That drove me crazy. I don't remember hearing no carts or anything like that, but I do remember them beds, man. And the beds in the bunk rooms at Springfield, like Salt Lake City, great bunk rooms, all that. You go to the bunk rooms at Springfield, them beds are lower than a Korean futon in there. All right, $2,700 a week average for 5 weeks, 3 weeks off, 2 weeks, and the whole average is $1,928, pretty close to 16 average. Put the net for the last 8 weeks on the glass. Bet you will. Why the fuck? Why would I even care? Damn, I am so tired of motherfuckers worried so much about what the fuck I'm doing on here. Let's put it this way. I got enough to fund a bunch of money into a brokerage account, have a bunch of money sitting in a business account, and have a bunch of money in my expense account. What? Oh, anybody knows me knows I'm never out here sitting here worried about the fucking money like that. And then you got me pushing me to say some shit that I really don't give a fuck about. Oh my God. And I would say that might be right if I had to go back to the comments, but I don't need to make all the fucking money. I got other money making me money. Like those 2 houses, the one that's paid off, that's making me money. The appreciation on the house I'm living in, that's making me money. The brokerage accounts and the 401ks, that's making me money. This little bullshit trucking stuff ain't even worth me talking about. That's just what keeps things going. Oh my God, that shit pissed me off. Lau knows what he's doing with money. You don't need to prove it. It's all about investing. I just hate it. It almost pisses me off that somebody is that fucking stupid that would think that the money that... Anyway, I'm not even gonna... Let's turn this into a teachable moment for younger people. The amount of money you make has very little to do with what you end up with years down the road. And then just again, if it was all about the money, there's not a lot of people in here right now that I talk to, that I see in the chat right now. Ask anybody that talks to me how often I ever bring up money. They'll ask me, what loads you get? And there's just some people that will send me, we'll send each other loads or whatever. And he's like, doesn't ask the question anymore, but it used to be, how much does it pay? I don't know. I sometimes might not even look at it. I mean, I don't know how many times I got to say that isn't the reason. And if it was all about the money and I was just trying to make as much money as possible, I would fucking probably be training right now. But it's not about training, or I wouldn't take off 3 weeks or 14 days or whatever. I mean, the 3 weeks, which really isn't exactly 3 weeks right now, it wasn't like I was going to take 3 weeks off. I was planning on taking around 2 weeks off. I ended up taking longer because I wanted to go somewhere with my wife on a certain date. That's why I stayed out longer. But if it was all like I needed to make the most money, how many people have been on this channel and I've taken off damn near a month or 3 weeks or 2 weeks at a time? Like, anyway, I hate having to defend myself against shit that I really don't even give a fuck about. I give a fuck that somebody's making it a point. Anyway, sorry about that. All right, how's the auto transport business right now? I don't know anything about the auto transport business. I know that that's above my pay grade. I would not be messing around with that right now. Quick question. What's your thoughts on Walmart dedicated versus PS? I don't know. I never did Walmart dedicated. I mean, I don't know if Prime has a Walmart dedicated. But what's my thoughts on Walmart dedicated versus PSD? I don't know what the correlation is between those two. It works out. All it takes is some hustle. When you're working, you're working. Now, that is one thing I will say. When I am out here, for the most part, now I have eased up a little bit. Probably since, I don't know, maybe the last 6 months, I've been not quite as down to do everything, but I don't think that's even hurt me as far as the income has gone. Like, I might say, I take stuff into my own hands. So if I deliver load and I don't have a pre-plan or whatever, or I haven't been sent a pre-plan, I'll just say, you know what, make me available. I'll take control of that. So they might have had a load that they could have given me, like maybe in the next 3 hours or something, but I just say, just make me available in 10 hours or whatever. I haven't seen that that's hurt anything, but it's made things a lot less stressful. All right, but if I stayed, then PSD training would be optional. Okay, wait. But if I stayed, then PSD training would be the optimal route. Man, I'm not sure if I wouldn't be a good PSD trainer. I personally would not. I'm more about if I was like on the pad all the time, I think I could be a good PSD trainer, but that would be a weakness of mine, is teaching that part of it. I think it's a lot easier for me to teach somebody how to run a truck or be profitable and learn how to do things in regards to that than it is to training somebody how to pass a test and do all that kind of stuff. In the final stages of attaining my CDL, looking into jumping into auto transport industry, what advice can you give me? I don't have any advice on that. Watch your step. Don't fall off the top of that. I don't know. What does the average lease driver make per week at Prime Inc? Somebody put some numbers in here earlier that I think would be about, if I've ever told anybody what I make, I have never said, here's how much I make and expected somebody to average that out over a full year. I would say that the people I talk to generally as a lease driver make between 2 on the low end, 4 on the high end. Usually it's between $2,500 and $3,500 a week. With a paid off truck, add another $1,500 to that. So that's what I think that. So if I'm talking to somebody, in case Mr. Smartass wants to come in here with another fucking profile, and I say, okay, I make, let's just say $2,500, $3,500 a week, whatever that is. Maybe sometimes it's $1,500. I don't know, whatever that is. I'm not expecting somebody to average that over 52 weeks. I'm saying per working week. That's what I make. Obviously, when I'm not working, I don't make that income. So if you wanted to average it out, you could average it out. If money was a problem, I wouldn't be sitting my ass at home for 3 weeks. To be honest with you, if it wasn't for fucking Prime and this little 30-day shit, maybe I'd take off even more than that. But yeah, that I would say that per average working week. Somewhere in that neighborhood. So if I take 3 weeks off and I worked 8 weeks straight, I guess you could take that amount, average it over, that full time. Mel, I tried training. I didn't have the patience or the trust. I actually like training. The actual training. What I didn't like was being tired all the time. And tired's being different than sleepy. And it's hard for me to train somebody sometimes. You ever heard of these people that don't feel pain and shit like that? And that shit's dangerous because they could have some shit that really happened to them that they should have felt the pain, but they didn't. I'm kind of like that when it comes to falling asleep. Like, I generally don't get sleepy. I get tired, but I don't really get sleepy. And sometimes I need to. It's hard for me to understand when a student gets to that point. So I always made it a priority to tell them, you're the captain of your own ship. If for some reason you're feeling tired, all you got to do is holler at me back here, tell me what the situation is, and we can kind of go from there. For the most part, listen, I was so lucky being a trainer. All my students were runners. Like, all of them were like 10 and a half hour drivers. A couple of them were a little more solar powered, than others. But all of them were pretty much runners. And I had a good time with like all of them. Even like the youngest one, who I probably had the least bit in common with, not just because he was young, but because I had I had a few young ones, but he was kind of on the spectrum. I think he had like Hirschberger syndrome or something like that. So he was like some form of autism. Like, and I even had a good time with him. I mean, it was a little bit different, but like, he wasn't that autistic where, you'd say, get the hell out of here, and he was like jumping out the truck or something. But he was just a little different. But it was kind of, once I knew that about him, it kind of made me understand him a little bit more. And we joked around a lot about it, So anyway, I had fun with all my guys that I trained. So I was lucky. And like I said, if it was more training like some companies do it, where it's not kind of a team truck and everything, then I'd maybe do it, but I don't know, I just can't do it. All right, if someone was training, had 8,000 miles left to do, but was home for over 30 days, do you think they may add more miles? Man, I don't know. Possibly. They might hit somebody with an extra 10. I told my trainer I don't read the script. The script reads me. Mel, yeah, I got the speech, huh? Aye, aye, Captain. That's a corny ass thing to say, but I was serious about that. Especially, you know, if you're running as a team, you generally still have, somebody needs to take a nap. Usually you're running far enough ahead to where you can stop if you need to. And if not, I might be able to drive. I might have some hours. Like, I may have got a break in there and got some hours back or something like that. So I may be able to drive or whatever the situation is. But I used to, every single time it was time for my trainee to drive, I always said, you just got one job. Don't kill me. Reefer guys are troopers, bro. I did reefer for 5 months and went back to van. That sleep schedule is too crazy. It was challenging. I'm telling you, that is the worst thing about reefer. But then again, I look at some of these docs, like, listen, especially at Prime. One thing I'll give Prime is we don't really have hard docs to back into generally. You have your few here and there, whatever, but everybody wants to make fun of Swift and them backing and not being able to back and everything. Man, you have never seen a Prime truck in the back of a Dollar General or a Dollar Tree or some off-brand shit like that. And I see a lot of dry van trucks in a lot of those little places like that. So yeah, I didn't think you were criticizing anything. Is Party Hard back out on the road, or is he still in jail? I don't know anything about him. I caught a little bit of his lives and stuff when he was like going crazy and stuff. I don't think I've watched him. Are you talking about Party Hard, the trucker, with the dreadlocks and shit? I haven't watched him in years, so I didn't even know if I hadn't even thought about him in probably 3 years. I'm Western 11. Woo, you're better than me. Western 11 in the wintertime. I don't want to go past Cheyenne in the wintertime. Hey, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm picky. I'll never be the best trucker because I get too picky about some shit. I'll do it, but I got to pick my spots. Like, I don't sit here and like look at the weather and try to analyze everything before I go over there. But if I go Western 11 or some shit like that, I got to be in and out. And I got trapped, man. Probably one of the top 5 scariest times I've had here on the truck was last year. I forget if I was in North Dakota or Montana, and it was wintertime, but it had snowed, but the roads were dry. I don't know why this like half mile stretch had a bunch of built up snow on it, but I hit that shit, and it was, luckily there was nobody next to me. I needed the whole highway to keep that thing on the road. And yeah, I just couldn't deal with that all winter long. Van definitely makes you a better backer. I'm a pro at backing. I think after a while you will get there, but I think if you were to say the average van driver at 2 years experience is definitely going to usually be better than the average reefer driver at 2 years. I've done all 3. Hold on, I've done all 3. I've done all 3. All right, I'm west to Midwest year round. I'd just like to be in the Midwest. If I could just stay there, I'd be happy. I see CR England hiring for box truck drivers all over. I wonder what that pay is. All right, so Ross is out there back with the blindfold on. Mr. Biggs, when do you think it's a good time to start a lease at Prime Inc? Well, I mean, if you can manipulate it, I would say the beginning of the year is always better to start any business. That's the reason. That's one of the reasons I stayed on my trainer's truck so long, was because I was trying to start a lease at the beginning of the year. Not that I wasn't going to stay on his truck a little bit longer anyway, but I stayed on even extra long because I wanted to stay on till the beginning of the year. That didn't end up working out. The reason I say the beginning of the year, taxes is a whole lot easier. Oh my God, did I see somebody from my training class? Can't tell. Makes taxes easier, just cleaner. Whenever you add another schedule to your taxes, whatever, it's going to cost you more money. So in my case, I started in November, or I got off my trainer's truck in November, got my own truck December 17th. So just for those, I couldn't stay on home time any longer because I was pushing up on 30 days. So when I got my lease truck in December, I had to file business, or 1099 for the last few weeks of the year. That triggered a whole nother schedule on my taxes. So I ended up paying more on my taxes just for those 3 weeks. So I'd say the beginning of the year to maybe May, June would be like the best time. After that, even past June. I mean, I guess I wouldn't do it in December. Can't tell you how many rollover drivers I've helped on Elk Mountain. And we just had somebody roll a truck over here at the Ink. Nebraska's the last state I want to be in come winter. No thanks. Yeah, I mean, at least Nebraska is like obvious, right? Like, when you should be off of that shit for the most part. Wyoming can kind of sneak up on you a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it's Nebraska, Iowa, all that. Mr. Biggs right now. So yeah, Ross is saying Mr. Biggs, now's a good time to lease since they're handing out loads left and right. I think that's going to be for a while. So I don't know if that's anything that's going to go away. But I would go the short term like Lyle. I'm not going to finish my lease. Actually, that is somebody asked me to do a video on surviving Prime, and that was one of the things I was going to say. One of the things that I had on my list was choose a truck based on your goals and your plans. And I made that mistake when I first upgraded out of TNT. Was I got almost not a brand new truck, but a newer truck than I should have, knowing that I was going to be wanting to do a lease purchase. So that was kind of dumb. And I see a lot of brand new people around here that are upgrading. I saw them out there looking at the trucks today, and everybody was skipping over them 24s and, some of them older ones. Saw a lot of people picking them brand new trucks over there, brand new to the industry. Don't know if they're going to be able to, or don't know if they're going to want to do this shit or not. And getting new trucks is kind of with them higher payments. I think my payment is like still high, but like $300 less a week than the newer ones. So that's $1,200 a month. That's a lot of money. Mr. Biggs' dry van has tight back spots. Yeah, I'm telling you, I see him in all kinds of crazy little docks and stuff. Lease isn't for me. I did it for 6 years. If I do it again, gonna be full owner op and own the company and the equipment. Yeah, I can see that. Um, that's one thing I think that we talk too much about in this business. You know, just like Chris Rock, he did that little skit back in the day. He said, you got black people yelling racism, white people yelling reverse racism, you got Chinese people yelling sideways racism. That's what it's like in the trucking industry, is you got everybody trying to, you got the owner op saying their way's the right way. You got lease op saying, their way's the right way to do it. You got company drivers saying that they broke the code on it. Man, there's so many different ways to do this, and not every way works out for everybody. You know what I mean? So I thought that being a company driver was the route I was going to go when I first got to Prime. The only reason I'm not a company driver isn't the money, like this asshole that keeps coming here and making it about the money. It's not the money, it was the time. And that's why I couldn't go company. Not because I didn't make enough money or whatever. Then once my truck was paid off, there was people talking about, going to this company or going to that company. At some point, it's just like the reason I'm in the trucking industry is just a lot of the bullshit stress that I dealt with in my last job for 20 years. And I wasn't going to leave Prime where everything is, it's getting to be a little bit more burdensome than it should, but I wasn't going to leave and go somewhere else. Even if I was going to make, a little bit more money, the stress that came along with it would almost balance that out. There's so many different ways to do this shit, and I'm tired of everybody or certain people saying, this is the right way to do it. If you do it this way, you're stupid. All right, Ross, the shit they had a 26 Pete at the Salt Lake yard, asking $1,600 a week. Suckers took the bait. Yeah. Only upgrade was a sailboat fuel you were hauling. Company the way to go to make all the mistakes, then you're a better driver. Definitely not about the money. Here's my only thing about company, and this is specifically at Prime, is I've talked to a few people that have gone on the company side, and I'd always, my suggestion, if I was to make a suggestion with people, would be to go company for a while. Obviously, make mistakes on the company's dime, all that kind of stuff. But then it's like, to me, and maybe I'm reading the tea leaves a little wrong, it just seemed like they were putting obstacles in the way of that, right? Like, at one point they were like, well, if you want to go company, then you gotta upgrade as a team. And then somebody calls them on it. We never said that. I saw the fucking message. You know what I'm saying? I didn't say that. It wasn't directed at me, but I'm just saying, when the guy said that, I'm like, I saw the message. You know what I mean? So, you had that. And then it's like, okay, well, now you got to pay all this money on a deposit to get the truck. And then it seemed like they weren't running company trucks for the same miles that I've been seeing them getting ran at. But so it just seemed like, with what, and like I said, I'm not company, I don't know. I'm just thinking what people have told me. It just doesn't seem like they're getting, I'm not saying that anybody's done anything deliberately, like they're trying to starve somebody out or anything like that, but it just doesn't seem like the universe is favoring company drivers at Prime right now. I could be wrong. I only talked to two company drivers, a little bit kind of in depth about it, and one a little bit about it. I'm not sure if I asked you this before, but How and why did you come into trucking? Because so far you seem to be doing a good job. I've okay, so I got into I was a car salesman for years back in the 90s, right? And anyway, let me shorten this up. Let me not even talk about my transition from cars into banking. But I had a lady who I worked with her dad in the car business, brought her down to buy a car for me. She tells me that I should get into banking and all this kind of stuff. And, we spoke about it a little bit, told me how much money it was going to pay. I was like, I can't do that at the time. So about 3 years goes by. Make a long story short, I get into banking, all that kind of stuff. Kind of cut my teeth in that a little bit, and then I ended up moving to the company that I was with in the mortgage business for about 18 years, something like that. And for a number of those years, I was a manager. So, like from 2003 to 2007, I was a manager in that business. And then, the market collapsed, all that kind of stuff, which was bad in itself, but it was just a lot of stress. So I'd say from like 2008 till I got into the trucking industry was a little stressful. A lot of it not just from the job, because there was a period of time when things weren't that stressful as far as the job went, but I had my sister was dealing with cancer and she was passing away, and then my dad was passing away and all this shit. So I was more or less kind of working, and then my son was like acting a damn fool at school. So I was like at the hospital in hospice with my dad, doing work from there. Then I was, dealing with the stuff going on with my sister. And then my son was thinking he was a fucking comedian in school. So now I was that parent. I was up in school sitting right in the little chair and shit with my son. This is like middle school and shit. And my priorities just weren't in the same place and everything. And the stress was like there's zero stress in the trucking industry. I mean, it's bad weather, stressful, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's not that stress that doesn't fucking go away. And that shit was grinding me. And I just knew there's no way I was going to be able to do it much longer. So that's kind of what brought me into this. And there's the guy that I used to be in the Marines with, who I taught how to drive a stick shift back in the day. And we were roommates in San Diego. When he got out of the Marines way back in the early 90s, he became a truck driver. I think he worked for Snyder at first or something. But anyway, so trucking was always in the back of my head, not as something I would ever do, but it was in the back of my head just because I used to see him. He used to drive through Denver, and I used to meet him at the Flying J. And, this was back when truck drivers the Flying J was not built the way it is now. It was built more like a Love's, kind of like all the trucks are on the outside. And there would be truck drivers out there with the grills going and the beer and shit, like all that. So I'd meet him up there, hang out up there with the truck drivers for a while. And so it was always in the back of my mind. Then, I don't know, one day I just started thinking about it. And that's kind of what got me into the trucking business. But when I got in the trucking business, I was able to, I had the luxury of being overtrained. So money wasn't like that big of an obstacle. Like I wasn't like, okay, I got to hurry up and get my truck because I need to, I need to start making money. So I planned on staying on my trainer's truck once me and this first asshole split up. So I was going to be on that truck for a long time. I stayed on longer than I probably should have, but I think that staying on my trainer's truck did that long, because it was a long time, served two purposes. I knew exactly how to run a truck, so there was not that lag that you have when you first get out on your own. And then I was trained by a runner. It wasn't none of that, we're going to just like run the truck 20 hours a day and the truck's not going to be moving for 4 hours. No, if there's hours, motherfuckers are running. So that's kind of how I came up, you know what I mean? And so I think that was helpful. But that's how I got into trucking. I mean, it's a much longer story than that. That's kind of the condensed version. You aren't lying. Even when I started there, company was a hard way to go. Prime is just geared to independent leasing. It's a lot. It's changed a lot since then. I would say that maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would say that would be like a good time to be a company driver. And I think I don't know. People gonna do maybe it's just the loads are different or whatever, but back in the day, at least from me talking to company drivers, right? At least you would know that, okay, company drivers were they were the ones getting the long loads and lease drivers were getting the short loads, all that kind of stuff. When you start getting company drivers fucking short loads and they're running, I don't even know how much company drivers make. Let's even say what I was paying. And I'm going to take the middle of the pay because I paid a couple different ways. But let's just say if you like 1,800 miles a week is not that far off on a leased truck, depending on how things are going. That's $1,100 right there at 1,800 miles at 65 cents a mile, which is way more than what they're actually paying. That's $1,100. So, and it'd be different if that was like, and like I said, my sample size is so small. Maybe it's a lot different, but you can't live on that as a company driver. But it seemed like back in the day, you had company drivers with YouTube channels that were doing, that were making the money. Kiersey, making the money as a company driver. There's somebody else who was a company driver, but I haven't seen that. And like I said, my sample size is small. So Bernie Madoff got me into trucking. I don't know if those two things would correlate, but actually, Christopher, what's up? All right, now as far as them starving folks and keeping you on a ball and chain with misinformation, yes, but Prime is what you make it at the end of the day, kind sir. I don't have a problem with Prime. Like I said, if I was a company driver, and like I said, I don't know how they're running company drivers, but if I was a company driver and I'm doing 2,000 miles a week at what they're paying, that's not enough. And you got to be out here for a whole month just to get 4 days off? At some point, there's got to be a break. And, there could be, as a matter of fact, I'm going to reach out to company drivers. So I'm going to go out of my way to reach out to company drivers and see what they're actually doing, more than just the ones that I know, and see if I can see what reality is. I see Prime lease trucks. I see what? The Prime lease trucks, old or new, is about the same price. No, my payment's like $1,200 or just under $1,200 or something like that. Them new trucks were like $1,600, so that's a lot of difference in payment. All right, welcome home, Marine. I was lucky enough to train and ride team with my brother, who was 173rd in Vietnam. Man, I'm not sure if I want to train with any. Oh shit! Is this Gilberto? He's been at Prime more times. He's been at Prime. Man, he's worked at Prime 8 years and has been back to Prime 8 different times. I think that was him that just rode by. Yeah. I know there are some people with some serious PTSD from Vietnam. I'm not sure if I could have been sleeping comfortably with that going on. Or, I did 9 months of hard time with company, 9 to 1,300, depending on who's your FM. And I think that has a lot to do with it, who your FM is. And I give credit to my fleet manager. I think he's a major reason why I'm not only why I do as good as I do, because I think that there's a ton of people that do the same thing, but why I'm here. Like, my fleet manager is so fucking laid back. Like, I don't think I could have one of these fleet managers, because I've seen the messages from some of these fleet managers when somebody sends me what their fleet manager sent me, and I'm like, man, I'm not sure I could have rolled with that. But my fleet manager is so laid back, and there have been times I've kind of lit him up, and I don't remember why. Not really lit him up, not like I'm a fire him or like aggressive. It would be like me just saying something, and then I've came back and said, hey man, I apologize for this. Here's why I was feeling that way, blah blah. And he was like, I just figured you just needed to vent, and I figured I'd let you vent. Not trying to challenge me, not trying to do whatever. That's like the perfect, that is the perfect fleet manager for me. Could a company driver, average company driver makes $1,500. And again, what are they basing that on? I mean, I guess if you averaged out all the weeks you're working and weeks not working, fuck, if you only get 4 days a month, you're not losing a ton of money if they're averaging those days in. But that's, $1,500 is, I could do $1,500. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking when I was thinking about going company. And again, it's the $1,500. Now, the insurance, I don't need insurance because my wife's handled that. From what I've heard, I'm not sure that Prime has. I mean, I worked at a mortgage company that probably had 50 employees or something like that. Our insurance was better than what I've been seeing that Prime has. So I'm not sure how much insurance is and stuff like that, but at least you get the 15, or at least you get the 401k match. I don't know what that match is on that. So there's definitely reasons why I would go company, depending on my situation. Could a company driver make more than a lease driver at Prime Inc.? So which one is better? I don't know if they can or can't. I would say that I haven't seen that. But again, it's the time off. I could not work those splits. Now, if they said, Lyle, you got to work a month straight to get 4 days off, but you're getting a 34 every week, that changes things. But then that would still have to be like a single thing. 4 day, think about what you have to do in 4 days. Whatever banking, there's just too much shit to do in 4 days when you're gone a month. I couldn't do it. How many miles a lease driver drives at the average every week compared with the company driver? You know what? I'll be honest with you. I've never really averaged out my miles or anything like that. I mean, I know that the last time I was out, I know there was a week when I was just under 3,400 miles because I was like, oh shit. Not that I'm worried about it. If I drive, if I have another 100 miles of dispatch loads that fall in this pay period, I'm going to get the automatic log audit. So I know I was up in that range at least once, but I remember one week I might have been around 1,500 or no, like 1,800, something like that. But I was like doing these like little like I got in this loop where I was going back and forth between Florida and like Arkansas, back and forth and back and forth. All right. Mill had a good fleet manager named Steve. He still might be up here, man. Them fleet managers, boy, they stay around. And they ain't afraid to tell you in the meetings either. How long you been at Prime? Well, I've been at Prime for this long. That's some good info right there. All right, I'm at a small company. I run 3,800 miles. I average 13 to 1,600 after taxes and health insurance and 401k. Sometimes I hit 4,800 miles on a perfect week. Woo, that's a lot of miles, man. But yeah, having all that after taxes and everything with health insurance and 401k, that's a good, maybe a few more miles than I'd want to run, but like, listen, I am pro company. That's what I think a lot of people like miss in this thing. And maybe I'm not expressing it right. I believe that the only reason that there is even a lease program in the trucking industry is because they make being a company driver so unpalatable as a whole. Not saying there aren't good company jobs out there or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's almost like you ever seen when them trucks come in with the cattle and the cattle's only got one way to go. They're kind of funneled into a place to go. I think that's what the trucking industry as a whole does with a lot of the new drivers is they get funneled into like this lease. And while I think the lease is better than being a company driver, if company drivers got paid what I guess company drivers should get paid, or the work conditions overall, it's not just the money, I don't think that as many people would be leasing. Like what would be the purpose? Because I'm amazed at some of these young guys I see around here. And I'm saying young, like early 20s, shit like that. And I think I've like matured pretty well. I'm just not sure 22 years old, 24 years old, that I would have the mindset to look at things the way I do now and put things in perspective like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm leasing a truck because it works for me, right? It works in the parameters that the trucking industry and like the trucking industry parameters and my parameters. But if I was young, all I'm thinking about is, what everybody's saying. Oh, you can make more money leasing or doing this or doing that or whatever. And I'm not thinking about the risk in it. Like now now I'm old enough to where I can look at the risk, assess it, not only assess it, but I have enough behind me to where there's potentially nothing that's going to put me out of business, right? If I just do a regular, whatever, nothing's going to like completely put me out of business. As a young person that, I see all these young guys running around here, 22 years old, 24 years old. Do they even look at the risk? Because I didn't look at no risk when I was younger. Are they even looking at the risk of like this little thing? Like if you don't have, a lot of, you just know some of these guys ain't got no 10,000 in the bank, maybe not even 5,000 in the bank. This one little thing right here can basically break you or put you in a bad situation or put you in a catch-up situation, or this health situation right here could put you in a bad, like, I think a lot of people are, man, I forget what my point is, but I am making a good point. I just think that young people are coming into this leasing without not that the information is not there, but you ever hear people when they, because I was talking to somebody, he was talking to his dispatcher. He's a new driver at Prime, but he's experienced. And his fleet manager says, why didn't you ask? He said, well, I didn't know to ask. Like, how can I ask a question that I don't even know to ask? And I think a lot of young people are in that situation. And all they're looking at is everything that they're putting in front of you. You could, the money, this, that. They don't look at and I'm not saying all of them. Well, let me put it this way. Me at 24, 22 would not be looking at the risk involved. And all I would be looking at is the upside and magnifying that upside. And I would probably get that check, which I was just talking to somebody a while back. I'd get that check and not have the discipline to set aside the money. It'd be a disaster. Anyway. Mr. Biggs, what do I think is a speed to drive in order to save fuel? I'd say it's a little different on a Peterbilt and a Freightliner. I think a Peterbilt is like maybe 61, 62 on a Freightliner, maybe 58. My last truck got awesome fuel economy, better than this one. But I don't know if it's because I run this truck longer, because I don't want this fucking thing to time out on me. So I'm not sitting here fumbling on my steering wheel every time I'm at a shipper receiver and I'm in line or something like that. My other truck, I didn't have no code on it, so it just start right up. Now I'm probably running it longer, so that's probably reduced my fuel economy. But I'd say 62. And I never really drove I drive 62 at night. If there's nobody around, I am not going to be the one asshole driving 62 miles an hour on I-80 with the Congo line of trucks behind me. Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough doing 65, right? So yeah, that would be my speed on those two trucks. Man, I shut his shit down so quick, motherfucker went on the safety meeting to clarify terms and conditions. Yep. And Lyle is right about the situations they put us in. You got to be sharp. Prime is one of the best because they're the only company where a new driver out of TNT could go lease with no experience. This is what I'll give Prime. Like I said, I'm looking at it from somebody 50 years old when I came into this. Is I could have done a lease purchase right out the bat. I don't know why I didn't do that shit, but I could have done that. They say you had to lease for 6 months or something like that. Didn't have to. And then I told somebody else that, and then they did it right out of training. They got a lease purchased right out of training. I have never, ever thought that I think the lease is great at Prime. I'm just trying to look at it through my 24, 23-year-old eyes. I just don't. Or just trucking in general. Like, I don't think age has a lot to do with it. You see a lot of people coming into trucking that are way more advanced than I am in terms of intelligence, job, all that kind of stuff coming into trucking. And then you have, at whatever age. And then you have, like, people of other ages that, may have come from, they never left the fucking block in Chicago, or they never left the holler in West Virginia. And, they don't know the things to think about. They don't know you could get put out of business for this thing that's not your fault. It could be the truck's fault, or, whatever the situation is. And some of those people fail. But a lot of people make it through it. And I'd say the majority of people make it through it, but a lot of people were whistling through the graveyard. Like, they didn't even know the obstacles or the things that could have popped up and got them. I was at least old enough to realize, okay, we're starting a business, and I think that's another trap. And anyway, we're starting a business, so I kind of knew about that and how things need to run, taxes, whatever. I just don't think that the average person, 24 years old, if I went back to my 24-year-old self, isn't thinking about all that stuff. They're just thinking about the money, or which is a good thing is not overthinking things. So I think a lot of people aren't overthinking it like I might have done if I even got around to thinking about it. But I keep forgetting what my damn point is on some of these things. Okay, let me just, I don't even know if this is the point I was trying to make. So I was talking to this guy, been in Prime for like 35 years. Probably the oldest guy or the longest driver at Prime. And he was talking about the old days and stuff like that. And you could not lease, and you couldn't lease you had to be company driver for at least a certain amount of time. And there was like some other stipulation. It wasn't like the whole goal wasn't to get you leasing right off the bat. And I think that the trucking industry in itself, not that you can't learn this on your own, but it's basically trial by fire is kind of what it is. And you have all these people that came in, like most people that come into trucking, all these people with the green vests that, some of them know because of YouTube or whatever, but nobody got into trucking because they wanted to be a business owner. Like that wasn't the main thing that got them into trucking. So, but they kind of got funneled into this like business owner thing. And then you have people that aren't business owners telling you how to run your business. And I'm just glad I was as old as I was. Prime is awesome at the end of the day because you could be at Navajo. Man, listen, like I said, there's a ton of reasons I like Prime. No matter what, I mean, hey, listen, we pick up some raggedy trailers here and there, whatever, and pictures ain't gonna fucking change that. Because most of the shit that's wrong with these trailers, the picture's not gonna get. But for the most part, we are spoiled at Prime when it comes to trailers. Navajo, man, I bet that 2/3 of their trailers are some bullshit. So I've always been a fan of the equipment at Prime. I don't fault anyone for doing a lease. For me, an extra $500 a week isn't worth the headaches. I need a minimum of $2,800 a week for headaches. I hear you on that one. Young men take risks and sometimes learn hard lessons. I saw a bunch play a losing hand, and to me, it was ego that broke them. Not because they weren't trying, but they were trying too hard. See, if I look back at being 20 years old, it wouldn't have taken too many of them $3,000 checks for me to go buy a fucking car with a big ass payment on it or something like that. Like you get old like I am now, I drive around old ladies' car. You know what I mean? Like, and before that I had an old truck, and I was never worried about that shit. But in my early 20s, I was all about, I probably was buying a new car. I was in the car business. Probably had a new car every 6 to 8 months, something like that. And I just always felt like I'm gonna have a payment. All right, little dude, I see Prime has 2027 Freightliners. What do you think about them? I don't think anything about them. If I was upgrading, I would hope that everybody in front of me would pick one of them Freightliner. I really can't tell the difference. I mean, I guess if you drive a Freightliner, you could tell the difference. I mean, I think I saw one that looked a little different, but I don't know anything about them. I mean, I can tell the new Peterbilts because them little midget ass Peterbilts. I mean, I could tell a little short, sawed off Peterbilt, and I know that is one of the things I'm happy about, not having to choose to get one of them little ass Peterbilts. All right, how much would you suggest to have in savings account for trucking when you do your first lease? as much as possible, man. There is no, I mean, I would say, and as I get older, this number would have probably changed. As a young dude, I'd probably be thinking 5,000. As an old guy, I'm saying like minimum 10, and that's 10 on top of that month's bills and car payments and all that kind of stuff. But I would say there's almost not enough. Like, there's not even, you can never have too much money. All right, Ross, I need it today. Thank you, OG. I'm not that much of OG. Only difference is the headlight and brake system on the 27 Freightliners. That's it. The front looked a little different on one of them, though. It almost looked like they had like little vents or something at the front. G80 Sean, I love my Volvo, but it's a pain in the ass. Sometimes you have to unhook your red airline to slide the tandems. I think the new Freightliners are a little bit different than the old Freightliners. It seemed like every old Freightliner I see driving down the highway has that one side panel that's always like shaking when you're driving down the road. Here's how dumb my ass is. I get to the terminal, move all the shit from my car to my truck and everything. Get in my truck, I'm going to move it because I had it parked back there by where Success Leasing parks all their trucks that are about to go out. And I kept pushing in the red and the yellow line, and I'm wondering why the red line keeps popping out. You know what I'm saying? Obviously I didn't have a trailer, so I didn't have shouldn't have been pushing in my red airline. I'm sitting here trying to figure out what's wrong with the truck. 1978, age 22, first job after college. I took much of my first month's pay, about 50 shares of Southern Company utility, or basically Southern Company, a utility company, for 800, reinvested the dividends. It's worth a lot more now. I can imagine it's worth a ton right now. And see, when I was 20 something years, here's what saved me. Okay. I did well in spite of myself. Like, I wasn't trying to make money or put myself in a position to make money or anything like that. I was like, I was fucking wasting money on dumb shit, right? And what saved me was, so I had a best friend. I grew up with him since like 1970, whatever. His daughter just became a doctor. Shout out to him. But anyway, we went through elementary school together. You know, I was like a year and a half old, like 2 grades ahead of him. Spent 2 years in high school together. He went to college. I went to the Marines. And then right when he was graduating from college, I was coming back to Denver from the Marines. We became roommates. One fucking Thursday night, I don't remember why we were hanging out at the club on a Thursday night, but he meets his wife. Make a long story short, his wife was in the title industry. So she was all about home sales, and she was all about that. So they ended up getting married. Before they got married, they bought a house or whatever. And then hanging out with those people and mortgage bankers and all that kind of stuff, they're the ones that kind of pushed me into buying that first condo I bought, or townhouse back in the day. And had it not been that, had I just been out on the island by myself and doing whatever, I never would have bought that townhouse. That townhouse, boy, that thing paid off well. And so actually some of them real estate investments that I made, that's what allowed me to mentally start getting into like investing. And a lot of that was 401k and stuff like that. The 401k was pretty much all that I was doing. It wasn't until COVID that I was like, okay, let's open up a brokerage account and get this going on. But there's no way at 22 I'd have been thinking about investing. Mr. Biggs, Freightliner is easy truck to repair. I agree. As a matter of fact, as a new person, I would probably say a Freightliner is a more safe route to go. And I think, I think where you're at in life, I would look at things a little bit different. I could say, you know what, and this Peterbilt doesn't count. I could say, you know what, the ride of a Peterbilt makes up, like, I'm willing to take a chance on, I don't think it's the amount of things that break down, but you have to go to a Peterbilt dealership a lot to get things done. So sometimes that's going to cost you money or something like that. But I know that I at least have that in reserves. I don't got to worry about it. As a new driver, I might just pick up a Freightliner just out of safety. I could take it to a TA. I could take it to wherever, get done. So my thing with the Peterbilt has always been that I think that's the downfall of it. But, I was always every time I went on home time, I was pretty much putting my Peterbilt in the shop, getting something done to it. So it was always kind of up on things. So I don't know. Okay, I feel my first truck at Prime. All right, was a 6-month lease in a Barney Purple FLD card carrying member of the Old Parts Club. First truck ever was a cab over. Yeah, that's a long ass time ago. Jeremy Greg's Country just made a video about me. I don't think he likes me. Boy, they were dragging his ass in the comments on that last video. Boy, as a matter of fact, I left a comment on that video, and 412 replied under my comment and said, man, that must have really irritated you to say something. Because I'm not going to say anything to anybody about stuff like that. But that triggered me. Somebody just caring so little about being late or having to reschedule a load. Just, Anyway, I guess I'm going to need to check out that video. Ross, the safest route. Proprietary equipment is expensive. Again, I don't think it was expensive. Two things I learned about a Peterbilt at Prime, or I think the main thing is, number one, stay away from Peterbilt in Springfield. And I think that's the main thing. It was never the money, though. It was always the time, if it was anything. Because most of the stuff was under warranty. We all need a workhorse, and Freightliner is the way. I kind of look at it like this. I had this granddad and shit, and he was like, he worked on the railroad for all these years and everything, and finally when he retired, man, I don't know how long he worked on the railroad. Like, there was always at least less expensive cars, but you would not see him driving around in anything but that long ass Fleetwood Cadillac. And I kind of look at it the same way. Like, man, there's something to be said about comfort. Now, this Peterbilt might as well be a Freightliner, as rough as this shit drives. Only way I'm getting a Pete is an old school 379. Man, I don't even know if those, I guess they're going to be more profitable coming up, but I'm not sure that, like, think about how much money you're wasting just to drive that. Man, I had an 88 Eldorado. Yeah, my first car, 1969 Dodge Charger. and that was in 1986. That is the one I wish I had back. All right, well, shit. Let's see. You know, I see some people buying these new cars and stuff like that. Man, with the depreciation on new cars, I would be thinking, man, would it be a better investment to just go ahead and spend $45,000 on a, you know, Roadrunner be too much money, Charger be too much money, like maybe a 69 Chevelle or something like that, instead of getting a new car that's going to be worth half of what it is 3 years from now. But then again, I ain't trying to spend no money on no cars. I'm happy with my Mom-mobile. My bro was pushing the 87 SS Monte Carlo. Back in the day, I think in the 70s, it was the first. So my parents had if you remember Training Day, the Monte Carlo that Denzel Washington was driving around, it was that first body style when they went from the big Monte Carlos to the littler ones, like in that. That was one of our cars in burgundy. And then we had another one. They bought it at the same time. It was a wagon. I think that was a Malibu wagon or something like that. I think it was the same car. One was a Mac wagon or something. All right, I'm about to get off here anyway. Mel, have a good one. 6318, good used cars are almost as expensive, and brand new car. I would just think if you bought a classic car, the depreciation on it, if you didn't tear it up, you'd probably be able to sell it for the same that you bought it for if you didn't really put many miles on it. Anyway, I'm about to get off here. Damn, this is 3 hours and 22 minutes. I appreciate you guys stopping by. No hippie trucking and transportation, except for that one motherfucker that was in here earlier, pissing me off. But I do appreciate you guys checking in. I am out.